along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations, you're waking up to the greatest country in history. Let's get to work. We've got an entire morning planned out with engaging discussions, critical analysis, most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Phone lines are open. We want to continue the conversation we just started because it's getting crazier and crazier. Is Donald Trump a fascist? We got a lot of calls that we couldn't get to. So if you want to join the conversation, dial in right now, 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Before we get to, we just got to play this before we do. I'm going to play Mika. Oh, yeah. Oh, she misses the point. They're flipping out 11 days out from the election right now. Listen to this.
I hope we don't find out the hard way. But what's happening with women right now is real, and it is playing out across America.
Oh, the tears are flowing from the progressive left about how terrible life is going to be under Donald Trump. But we had 4 years under Donald Trump. They're pretty great, with the exception of the pandemic, which, I think he listened too much to the progressives on that. But I would love to hear from our listeners this morning. We're kicking it off because we've got an absolutely jam-packed show. We're going to hear from Jennifer Fielder, Christy Burton Brown, Danielle Jurinsky, and we got some cowboy poetry with Jeff Hildebrandt coming today. So if you want to join the conversation, call us right now at 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Is Donald Trump killing us? Mika. Let's check in on news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
What a knucklehead. Sounded like a fifth grader or something.
It's just desperation at this point.
It is.
It's wait, you haven't heard everything we've been trying to tell you. I need to shake you. I need to physically grab you and shake you. Do you know what you're going to do to this country?
Exactly. Appealing to the low information voters at this point. Desperation. I agree, Jeff. No doubt. Good to hear your voice and Billy's.
Glad to have you back.
Hey, thanks a lot. You know what? I have to tell you, I was driving, had to do something early yesterday morning, so I couldn't make it. But it was great listening to the show, driving down I-25 at about 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30. The show sounds great while you're driving. It's awesome, man. When you're in this situation, when we're in a studio, you don't really get to appreciate it. But I'm like, man, this is awesome. It was a great morning, beautiful weather. I'm listening to you and Billy, and the show sounded great. So it was cool getting to hear it from that perspective. So
fantastic.
So great to be back. 36 and clear. In Denver, expecting a high of 66 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, the Broncos releasing a statement that wide receiver Josh Reynolds was a victim of a shooting last Friday in Denver and received treatment for minor injuries. Out of respect for the legal process, we'll defer further comment on this matter to authorities, the team said. Police say they responded to a call just after 3 a.m. To southbound I-25 in South Quebec. 2 people suffered non-life-threatening injuries. One of them was Reynolds. The circumstances are still unclear and under investigation. 42-year-old Burr Charlesworth was arrested on October 19th, and 35-year-old Luis Mendoza was arrested on October 22nd. Both are being held for investigation of attempted first-degree murder and first-degree assault. Reports say Beyonce will be at a rally with Kamala Khan in Houston today. Of course she will. Eminem in Detroit.
Eminem endorsing Kamala. Does somebody have something on him?
And no reason for the Khan to go to Texas, but hey, if you can get Beyonce to stump for you, well, you have to go where she is, her hometown. Last night, Barry Soetoro, campaigning for his 4th term, tried to keep the flame burning with their October surprise.
The other day, General John Kelly, Donald Trump's former chief of staff,
who he fired,
said that Trump told him he wanted his generals to be like Hitler's generals.
Really?
Now, don't boo. Vote.
Yeah, go vote now.
I want to explain that in politics, a good rule
Please.
of thumb is don't say you want to do anything like Hitler.
Okay. So he's keeping the Hitler thing going. And the Obama-Clinton deep state machine extremely busy on Thursday. Hillary keeping the narrative alive on CNN.
And, one other thing that you'll see next week, Caitlin, is Trump actually reenacting the Madison Square Garden rally in 1939. I write about this in my book. President Franklin Roosevelt was appalled that neo-Nazis, fascists in America were lining up to essentially pledge their support for the kind of government that they were seeing in Germany. So I don't think we can ignore it.
Oh, God.
So you know what they're doing there?
Yes.
That is the transition point where they go from Donald Trump is Hitler to if you attend a rally of Donald Trump's,
correct,
you are now a Nazi.
Yes, you are guilty as charged if you're just associating with this. Yeah. And man, it is hitting the peak right now as predicted. If you don't follow this stuff, remember we're less than 2 weeks away, almost a week away from the election. And this is their October surprise. Why didn't General Kelly bring this out a long time ago? I want to hear the audio. Where's the evidence? I mean, the whole thing is a joke, and they're trying to defeat the will of the people.
We played the interview he did with the New York Times, and I brought this up yesterday. When people face situations like that, like oh my gosh, the guy I worked for is talking about Hitler and lauding Hitler, right? Like that would be so seared into your memory.
Yeah.
You would remember details. And when he talks in the New York Times interview and he asks, well, what did Trump do after you challenged him, General Kelly? He just kind of moved on. Like it's so clear to me that didn't happen because there's no details. But then there's the big question. Why did you continue working for the guy?
Right. What does that make you? Here, Hillary's talking
One
about
of
the
Hitler's
people.
generals,
Yes,
apparently.
there you go. Absolutely. Yeah, and they're also, Ty, you can see it. They're projecting and they're also predicting that there's not going to be a result the day after the election, and it's going to be litigated, and it's going to be, chaos in the streets. I believe that. There's no doubt. They're planning this. They've got 3 or 4 more days to do this, and then now they plan for the craziness after the loss.
Blake, I brought this up on Twitter. It's a question I have for you.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a time when this thing was settled the night of the election. How is it that our elections have gotten so much crappier?
Yeah, we're in 2024.
We're now a week. We have to spend a week counting this stuff.
Yeah.
It didn't happen in 2004. It didn't happen in 88. It didn't, there was 2000, which was contested over hanging chads, but
right.
For the most part, we knew the night of the election.
No doubt.
Our technology has gotten better, and our elections have gotten less transparent, less reliable, more murky. I don't get it.
Everyone has a phone and communication. Everyone can go live wherever they want to with video images, digital images, and we can't figure this out. We can scan and we can do everything on our phones, but we cannot
catch a rocket.
Catch a rocket. Absolutely. No, this just screams of corruption. And I think most people realize it. It's like when people talk about, well, it's a complex issue. All the things that they say is really complex. It gets a really detail, when you talk about the Middle East, for example, and really it's simple, but it's a difficult problem to solve, as Prager always talks about. And this is so clear what's going on. So, but the only way we can fight it is you have to get out and vote. You have to vote.
That's exactly right.
Early. If you haven't done it yet, get out there and do it early. For the love of God. McDonald's is facing a lawsuit from a Colorado man who says he was sickened with E. coli after eating a quarter pounder. The lawsuit claims Eric Stelly tested positive for E. coli a few days after eating at McDonald's earlier this month. Greeley Colorado health officials later told him that his illness was connected to the fast food chain's outbreak, according to the lawsuit. An E. coli outbreak linked to the quarter pounder burgers has killed one person in Colorado and sickened dozens from numerous states, I think 9 states. The suit accuses the chain of negligence and product liability. John Erlinger, the president of McDonald's, told the Today Show that they are confident that people can go to a McDonald's without having to worry.
Very likely worked itself through that supply chain already, but certainly we'll be working with the CDC and cooperating.
All right. Keep an eye on that. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. College football weekend. Finally, yes, here we go. Tomorrow night, Cincinnati at CU, New Mexico at CSU, Air Force is off, Utah State at WYO, and Northern Colorado goes for 2 straight against number 9 Montana. FCS action in Greeley. Come on up. It's Kids Day. Let's pack the house.
Hey, Blake, it's also Lou High's homecoming day today.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
We got some Friday night lights.
Oh, man.
Lutheran.
And so they'll have all the festivities pregame and halftime. That's awesome.
It'll be fun. I'm heading up to the CU game tomorrow. And then are you going to be at the
UNC game? Kickoff 1 o'clock. You know what? They're just staying humble. They're humble and hardworking. And Montana is Montana. I mean, Montana's got a great program. Montana State and Montana, they're the premier top 5 teams in the FCS, and it's going to be very difficult to beat them. But, however, if we get all the people from Colorado who want to see a great college football atmosphere and root on the underdog tomorrow at 1 o'clock, make some noise, you never know. So great stories surrounding that's going to be a blast. So come on up to Greeley. It's a great thing, Jeff, because you can get a family in there, family of 4, to watch college football, Division I college football for probably under $50.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
do you have that audio
on.
of the coach, by the way?
I don't. Let me see here. I'll get it for you next hour. We'll play it next hour.
We'll head into football weekend.
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
Warrior cry.
One of the great stories is their quarterback. I told you and Billy this last week, but I mean, he was the sixth string quarterback to start the season. And now he's the starting quarterback, and he was the signal caller for a team that broke an 18-game losing streak. So rooting for him. He's a great young man, awesome kid, graduate student from Hawaii, transferred from Colorado Mesa in Grand Junction. And man, it's like a storybook, career for him the last 2 weeks. So it'll be fun. So come on up to Greeley this weekend. 34 in Brighton, 33 in Lakewood, 36 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Oh, I almost forgot. I got to play 10 seconds of this, you guys.
Back me up, go all in by Joe Biden.
Jeff and Billy continue. TGIF, Blake Olson News Talk 710 KNUS.
It'll be a gorgeous late October weekend here in Denver. Take advantage. Temperatures are going to be climbing into the mid-60s today. Lows tonight, upper 30s and low 40s, into the 70s Saturday, Sunday, Monday. However, do be ready for a chance of showers and temperatures that will be noticeably colder by Tuesday and Wednesday. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. So Tuesday, we're taking the show on the road, Bill.
Yes, we are. And Mike Boyle from the Restaurant Show on the weekend might be joining us as well. We are going to be hanging out at the IHOP located at 225 Mississippi Avenue. Get on Mississippi just west on 225. That's where we're going to be. We'll be there from 6 a.m. until 10 a.m. this Tuesday out in public having breakfast with y'all. So come on out and see us. And also want to give a reminder, check out Peter Boyle's Halloween show, 9 to 1 tomorrow. He spent years and years and years spending time over Halloween in haunted houses across Denver, and he's assembled an all-star cast that is going to recount some of the scariest and most ridiculous stories. So that'll be fun. So that's 9 to 1 on Saturday, and then you got to come up and hang out with us on Tuesday at the IHOP 225 in Mississippi, so just west of Mississippi.
So I'm not a big Halloween guy. I've never gone through a haunted house. What did they do? They just jump out. They're like, ooga booga.
No, it's it has, well, it depends on what the theme is behind it. And I actually had friends that worked haunted houses for a while. That's the weird friends that I have. And normally you're a theme, and they spend a lot of time, like, it's basically like doing a movie set. And they create a movie set, and then as you're walking through it, you have these actors that play particular characters that come out, and they either portray roles, or they're scary, or sometimes there are some of the ones that are the craziest are the ones that'll follow you as you're going from room to room, and they just like slowly coming after you.
Don't
like,
you risk getting assaulted?
You have to say no. I mean, one, the performers can't assault you. That's
well,
part
yeah,
of the
I know
ticket.
that, but
Yeah.
I know someone's natural inclination when they get scared is to throw a fist.
Yeah, two of my friends have been hit. But you have to sign a release. You have to sign a release as well when you're going in. You're like, I'm not going to attack anybody. And if it's really serious, there can be charges that are filed and everything else. So, but again, that's somewhat also on performers as well, as far as making sure you don't get too close. Well, don't get too close. That's the idea, is you have to understand the scary nature of it with also understanding personal boundaries. And based on certain demographics, as what are you going to do with little kids versus older kids? And there are things like that. So you've got to kind of
Ellen
recognize
used
that.
to have a funny bit where she would take her producer, who was like super easily scared through these, and like he would end up in a fetal position.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Since I've never been through one, we should do that sometime.
Yeah, I've been through a few. It's a lot of fun. It is very, very fun.
Well, that'll be great for Pete over the weekend to hear from him. So be sure, and you got Caldera, you got Peter Boyle. Saturdays are great here. Mike Boyle as well. So be sure to tune in 710 KNUS all throughout the weekend. But join Billy and I Tuesday. So when we do a live broadcast, that means we do the entire show from 6 to 10 just right in the restaurant. And you can come by for 5 minutes, give us a high five. You can come by and spend all 4 hours with us, eat food. We'll put some of the folks visiting on air, be part of the conversation. So it's a great morning.
It was fun. We hung out and had a breakfast with artists after our last adventure out in public, because we had some time. She had some time. And so, we just sat down with the artist who's a fan of the show and often texts, and we had breakfast with her. So, that's kind of stuff that we do.
7586. Jeff, will you sign my Bible on Tuesday? No.
That's funny.
Maybe Donald Trump signs Bibles. I don't sign Bibles, but that's funny. That is a good text. 7586. All right. So is the left losing their mind at this point right now? Listen to Mika. Goodness gracious.
As important as Trump's fascism is, and is the lead story every day, his cozying up to dictators, his obsession with Hitler that has now come out, what he has said about our veterans, and what he wants to do with the military against his political adversaries, it's all huge news. This is the future that we're looking at in the next Trump term, if there is one. But this is what voters know right now, that he is killing us. I'm talking about us women. He's killing us. He is putting us at risk. He is making us afraid to have babies. No. He is putting our reproductive health at risk. And some women have died already because of this. So
is Donald Trump killing us, or is the left actually just losing their minds 11 days out, knowing they're going to lose? Let's go to the phone lines. Marcus, Aurora. Good morning, Marcus.
Good morning, guys. Hey, can you see if Mike Boyles can get us a discount?
I'm not on the Tuesday. Yeah, that's on his show. He can't do it for Tuesday. I'm sorry. But he should be there with us. So come out and say hi. Oh, no, we lost you.
Marcus, call back in.
Call back in.
Phone lines are open. 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Here's Trump responding to all this crazy fascism talk.
But I've never seen anybody so inept at speaking. I mean, I thought her performance was horrible. I've never seen anything like it for a high-level politician. I can't even believe it. But she did call me a fascist, and everyone knows that's not true. They call me everything until, something sticks.
She said during that town hall she believes they've handled the border correctly. CNN pressed her on it. Would you have done anything different? Do you regret anything? And she said, quote, I think we did the right thing.
Wait a minute. That she's handling it correctly?
Correct.
She said that?
She said that. She said, quote, I think we did the right thing.
We allowed 21 million people in. We allowed 13,099 murderers. We allowed mental institutions from all over the world. If she said that, look, she's a grossly incompetent person. And if she said that, They had the worst border in history.
I want to give you a chance to respond to your former chief of staff, John Kelly, directly. He said some things about you, essentially accusing you of disparaging American soldiers in an Atlantic article. When's the last time you talked to him, and how would you like to respond?
Years ago, I fired him. He was a bully. He was a bad guy, and he ended up being a weak guy because all bullies end up being weak. And he wasn't a smart guy. It's a bad combination. But I fired him. He made a statement that I'm like Hitler. It's just couldn't be further from the truth. It's just the opposite, actually.
Just the opposite.
Just the opposite.
Just as a
What is the
reset.
opposite of
I
Hitler?
have no idea, but I don't think he knows either. And then just as a reset, what he said about immigration was totally wrong. None of that was correct in his response on immigration. And when he talked about John Kelly saying that he's Hitler, he didn't. He said that he had admiration for Hitler's generals. He didn't say Donald Trump is Hitler or Donald Trump is like Hitler. He said he expressed admiration and wanted to know why the generals.
That's parsing. That's the left wants to be. The left is making it. I mean, Hillary Clinton just said that they're hosting rallies like the Nazis hosted rallies.
Yeah,
that's what they
No,
want to say.
I know that's what. And again, Mika makes broad generalizations and Hillary makes broad generalizations. But the accurate quote from Kelly is this. Now, you can say that he's calling him Hitler, etc., but he didn't. Donald Trump said he called me Hitler. No, he didn't. He said you expressed admiration for Hitler's generals and wanted to know why your generals weren't the same. That's it. That's not Donald Trump sitting there saying, I'm Hitler. I'm going to start acting like Hitler. That's the implication that he sits there and he makes with a quote. He's wrong about it. That's okay.
Well, I think Trump's got to respond not just to exactly what John Kelly said, but the entire effort to make him the second coming of Hitler.
But he did point back to John Kelly, what John Kelly said. And when he misquotes him, that is worthwhile pointing out. Yes, the broad generalization is wrong, but he's also inaccurate on what he said as far as what John Kelly said.
Do you think he said that?
Do I think he said that?
When you listen to John Kelly describe that conversation?
Here's the thing. I don't think that everybody that we've heard so far is lying that comes out and says Donald Trump has said these things. Do I think that he wants to be like Hitler? No. But do I think that he admires the power of a totalitarian dictator? Yes, I do, because we had the conversation yesterday because of him being that titan of industry. That's how dictators run their country. They are the only decision maker. That's what he admires. That's his world that he's lived in. That's how he thinks things will function better. In my view, he thinks Congress and the court system are an impetus to what he wants to get done for the country because he doesn't have those constraints on his power in his business world. He doesn't have a whole bunch of lawyers running in there telling him what he can't do. To your point, he tells the lawyers, go make this legal.
Right.
That's what he does with the DOJ. And that's what we saw with the DOJ during his last. And that's how he operates.
I agree with you. And for me, I don't see it much differently than the way FDR operated his presidency, who got angry at the U.S. Supreme Court, said we got to pack it, came up with a whole plan on that because he wanted to fundamentally transform, and FDR did, our nation into the kind of great society that he wanted to build out of it. And I think Donald Trump has similar tendencies, but it's in a reductionist direction. I think he wants to fundamentally transform the way the federal government operates by reducing its scope and impact. And similar to the way FDR did, I think he sees probably Congress as getting in the way of that. But whether I don't think that puts him in a fascist category. It just puts him in the category of a guy who wants to wield the power of the executive branch. Yeah. And we've had debates. We've gone back and forth on how a president uses the executive branch to his advantage in this country.
Now, as a conversation, we'll get to Marcus. He's back here in a second. Just to follow up on a conversation I had with a texter yesterday, and they were challenging me on my view about Donald Trump and fascism. And I said, I don't think that Donald Trump has looked through philosophy and looked through this and chosen, hey, I'm going to be a fascist. I don't think he could define it if you asked him. If you asked him for an example of a fascist leader, I don't think he can tell you. However, his decision-making, how he views the world, and when he implements his power, he makes fascist decisions. How he's presenting his campaign ticks most of the boxes off the checklist from, who is it, Umberto Eco, as far as the indicators of fascism. He clicks most of the boxes. Has he chosen this? No, I don't believe so. I don't think he's ever chosen it, but that's how he's wired. And so we should expect him to make fascist type decisions when he's in power, which again, if we are headed down communism, as we've been told that we are now becoming a communist country, what would be the fastest check against that? Fascism. It would make the most logical sense. If you think that we are actually spiraling towards America becoming communist, the fastest thing to correct that would be elect a fascist. That would be the pull in the other direction. It would make total sense. So I'm not sitting here saying don't vote for Donald Trump because of this. If you think that's the direction the country's going, then your smartest choice is to pick the fascist. And he makes fascist decisions in his campaign. That what he talks about right now is based on fascism, on the checklist you can run down. It's what he does. It's okay. We can choose whoever we want in this country. And that's the beautiful thing about America. We still get the choice.
That is where the New York Times got into a very interesting piece yesterday.
Yeah.
Holy cow. We're going to get to that in a second. But let's go to Marcus Aurora. Good morning, Marcus.
Morning.
Good morning, guys. Hey, the only thing I want to say is the Democrats have done this through all these elections. They always use these three things: Nazis, racism, and Christian coalition. And that goes back from Ford. And I think people are tired of it because you got used to it that you just blow it off.
Yeah, you know, Marcus.
Another thing.
I'm sorry. On that one, though, let's go back and let's also look. And I think you're correct. I think that the Democrats use those terms way too flippantly and way too often. But I also want to go back, and my experience through the 80s and beyond, I have been told for over 40 years that the Democrats are going to turn this country into communism. I was told under the Clinton administration that we were going to communism. I was told under the Obama administration that we were going to communism. In fact, Sharia law was going to be implemented under Obama. And then I was told under the Biden-Harris administration, we were going to communism and we were going to become a communist country. How long does it take? How long? Because we're obviously not going to become the fascist Hitler country that the Democrats are claiming. And we're obviously not becoming the communist country, in my mind, that the Republicans are claiming. So I think that it's a horse apiece. Both of them use those phrases because they know they're loaded and they're not actually dealing with the issues. I think for me, it's an obfuscation of an inability to deal with the actual issues on the table. And instead, it's much easier to call names. Believe me, take a look at the text messages and the people that send me messages. Much easier to call names than to deal with anything that I actually say.
Well, they won't tell you on the radio.
No, we got a whole series of people that call me names on the text message and don't have the spine to call on the radio. Yeah. So, yeah, what else is on your mind, my friend?
Oh, yeah. One interesting fact. Do you know Harris's father? Do you know what his name is?
Jeff brought this up earlier this week.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Donald J. Yes.
That's Donald
really
J. Harris.
Yeah. Again,
an economist. Can you imagine?
Here's the thing, Marcus. If you, Jeff, and I sat down and we put together a screenplay and came forward and said, "Here's the presidential thing that we're gonna," and the father of the person that's going to be running on the opponent is going to have the same name, they'd go, "That's stupid. Stop it." But this is the world we live in.
Marcus, really appreciate the
Thanks
call. Phone line is open, 303-696-1971. Progressives freaking out, saying Donald Trump is a fascist. I disagree. I don't see it any different than a chief executive seeking to drive his agenda as powerfully as he can. FDR, New Deal, fundamentally transformed the federal government in a bad direction, in my opinion. Went on to create a welfare state, created all these problems. FDR had problems with Congress that he had to push through. He saw the Supreme Court as an impediment, wanted to pack the court. Nobody was running around calling FDR a fascist. And in my opinion, what Donald Trump is going to do is fundamentally transform the federal government in a more limited direction. He's going to take on the deep state. He's going to clean house. If he could fire 80% of the federal government, I would be up for it. FDR fundamentally transforms the federal government. He's seen as this great progressive thinker. Donald Trump seeks to restrict the federal government and use the power of the executive to do that. And he's called a fascist. I don't think it's fair. We'll get to the phone lines here in just a second. Look, do you know that last year, over 49% of the homes listed did not sell with the real estate agent who took the initial listing? This cost home sellers thousands of dollars in lower offers and painful holding costs. Gay Ribble and the Power Home team of Keller Williams have a track record of selling homes fast and get their home sellers 6.1% more money on average. netting their sellers $30,500 more in their pocket. They do this using their proven proprietary systems and guarantees. Go with the team that doesn't just make empty promises, but can actually provide proof of their experience and track record of getting homes sold for top dollar. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team is so confident in the services they provide and the results they get you that if you're not happy, you can cancel at any time at no cost to you. This is called their cancellation promise. Look, I saw in the Wall Street Journal the other day, this is the second worst year of home sales since 1995. It is a real challenge out there. You don't want to go with an inexperienced agent. You got to go with literally the best. And that's Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Call 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com, GAYE hasthebuyers.com. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Owayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories.
A French trader has bet a whopping $28 million on Donald Trump to win the 2024 presidential election on the political betting platform Polymarket. According to Polymarket, one of the large whales on the platform is an experienced French trader who has extensive trading experience and a financial services background. This same trader is in control of 4 large accounts, which bet $28.6 million, and another bet coming in for $7 million that Trump will win the popular vote as well. The info comes after Polymarket launched an investigation, but found that to date, Polymarket has not identified any information to suggest that this user manipulated or attempted to manipulate the market. The statement said the traders' accounts were funded from a, quote, well-known centralized crypto exchange. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has announced another $135 million in aid to the Palestinians, saying it's critical that aid enters Gaza. Blinken spoke in Qatar on Thursday on his 11th visit to the region, attempting to solidify a ceasefire between Israel and the terror group Hamas. The war in Gaza broke out after Hamas terrorists entered Israel, tortured and killed innocent civilians, and took hundreds of people hostage. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says his goal is to get the hostages back and eradicate the terror group.
That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Owayo, Salem News Channel.
back to the Jeff and Bill show. It's been 11 days before the election, and the left is freaking out. Say Donald Trump is killing us. Mika yesterday, Hillary Clinton going, those rallies remind me of Nazi rallies that are taking place out there. That's where they want to pass this off on to you if you support Donald Trump. The question we were debating at the end of the show yesterday and then this morning is Donald Trump a fascist? Billy making the arguments that if you look at the definition of fascism, there's certain things that Donald Trump ticks off that go, yeah, he acts like a fascist. I see it differently. I look at, for instance, FDR's presidency. Controversies over that, right? New Deal initiatives found unconstitutional by the U.S. Supreme Court, so he wants to go try to pack the court. The guy serves or runs and gets elected for 4 terms, creates all these new federal programs. He saw the power of the executive branch to fundamentally change the direction of this country, and he ran at it. Now, I disagreed with the direction that he ran, but I don't consider it fascism to want to wield the power of the executive branch to change this country. In this case, I think what Donald Trump's trying to do is wield the power of the executive branch to restrict the impact of the federal government. That's why Republican primary voters put him in that position, and that's what they want to see out of him. Let's go. Throw some elbows. Let's reduce the strength, the impact of the deep state in our lives and the breadth of the federal government.
Yeah, the only thing I'll put on that is that if we're talking about restricting the power of the federal government, there are a whole bunch of females that feel like their individual power has been restricted post-Trump administration.
On abortion.
Yeah, so the argument, I know,
put it back to the states.
But the issue being that it's like, okay, we're trying to restrict governmental power, and then what we end up with is government saying to people, you can't do this with your bodies. That to me,
federal government.
But hang on, but again, that's for me, that's not an argument for limited government. I don't care if it's state or federal. It's not an argument for limited government. Personally, I don't see it that way. That's just me.
I mean, it's the argument that you're essentially making the argument that if the federal government doesn't allow for abortion and localities can come up with their own laws on that, that's somehow the same as an intrusive federal government.
No, what I'm saying is it's not limited government, regardless if it happens on the state level or the federal level. That's it. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying is when it's restricting that individual's choice about their healthcare and their body, that to me is not a limited government proposition. It's a large government proposition because you're dictating to the people what they get to do with their own bodies and their choices.
But you're lumping together federal and state government then.
Yes, absolutely. But what my issue is limited. I understand that you want to make it federal and you're saying, okay, we're going to make a limited federal government and a more expansive state government. That's fine. Take that position. I'm just saying you can't make the argument that as Republicans, you want limited government when you want it to be expanded by the states. Just that's all I'm saying. Neither one of those is a limited government, and that's fine. That is okay. That's okay because that's what Republicans want that way.
I think I disagree with that. But let's go to Tony Littleton. Good morning, Tony.
Hey, good morning. Let me say up front, if you find yourself up against an urgent break, I'm happy to hang on the phone for a few seconds while you do that to finish the conversation. But the point of the call was I think Billy made an interesting point, and that is both sides have been guilty over the past of accusing the other of these very provocative terms. Do you think there's any difference, though, when in this case we have 2 senior generals, 30 people who served inside his Oval Office, and hundreds of other Republicans saying he's a fascist and he is unfit? Is that different than that coming from the left? And is that at all to you?
No, I mean, I look at it the same way. I see Liz Cheney moving all of a sudden over after condemning Kamala Harris and how terrible she is, now voting for her because there are Republicans out there that believe in a strong federal government and they want that power, and they're deeply concerned about what a Trump presidency might do to the deep state.
Take one guy. Let's just take one guy, Mark Milley. Chief of the Joint,
right?
Leader of the Joint Chiefs, right? And he said he is a fascist to the core. And I wanted to find out a little bit about Mark Milley. So I looked him up, and I was kind of staggered. 40 plus years of service, includes 10 commands overseas. But in addition to that, 4 master's degrees from Princeton, Columbia, MIT, and the Naval War College, all in political science and history and international relations.
Tony,
I would guess that guy knows more than all 3 of us are ever going to know in our lives about
Tony,
government.
I'll tell you exactly what type of guy he is. With what you described for me, he comes right out of the same cloth that George H.W. Bush and Mitt Romney came out of, which is they believe that the most educated, smartest person in the room should make all the decisions. So they follow all the rules. They do everything to get those degrees. They can't comprehend. And this is why I love Donald Trump. They can't comprehend a guy that is built something, that is a real chief executive, that builds things that other people can't see, that didn't follow all the rules to get where he is, but has the creativity and the entrepreneurialism to be able to see things that other people can't. And I've worked for people like that. They're super unique. And I can completely understand how a guy that went and got all the degrees and followed all the rules can't comprehend the way Donald Trump thinks, but it's the way, it's what our country and this government desperately needs right now. Tony, I really appreciate the call. We're just out of time. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're just having so much fun with the callers. We're going to continue with that. We'll do You Choose the News later. Look, I worked for Mitt Romney. I've been around very, very smart people. Mitt Romney cannot figure out why he is not president and Donald Trump was. And that's because in Mitt's world, he did everything right. He followed all the rules. He got all the degrees. He was on paper the perfect candidate. But what the people want and what I want as a Republican voter is somebody that can throw the rule book out, especially with how our federal government operates. I want a whole new book. We got to take on these failing institutions that have driven us to $35 trillion in debt. I don't want to be in any new wars. I want new leadership. And so I want somebody that can break that mold. And that's why I think Donald Trump's the right guy to do it. Let's go to the phones. Ken, Aurora, good morning. Ken?
Morning.
You know, you just said what I was thinking more or less. We've got this federal government. I think there's like 450 different agencies they've got. How many do we need? If you divide that up, I mean, we've only got 50 states. How much regulation do we need in an allegedly free country?
Well, but we have more than 350 million people.
Reagan said that government isn't the solution; it's the problem. And when you grow it that big, I just saw this thing where Elon Musk got in trouble because he wasn't hiring qualified candidates for his company SpaceX that were foreign. They were from Mexico or God only knows where, but they were qualified. And he got in trouble because there's a state law that says you have to hire them. But then there's another federal law that says if you're working with, national security secrets, you can't hire them. They have to be a born U.S. citizen. So the state and the feds can't make up their mind. It's still in court. Now, what is this guy to do? So you look at these onerous regulations, and it drives up inflation, taxes, and debt. How many General Millies do we need to figure that out? And the whole, burgeoning federal government. And where do you draw the line? Have we had enough? And you could call that fascism or not, but they want in on everything. You're making blinds for your house or a light bulb or a car or putting something in your driveway. What's approved? It goes on and on.
Yeah, but the problem would be that, Ken, is so we shouldn't have any regulations on the manufacturing of cars. We don't have to have any safety standards. We shouldn't worry about anything like that as far as people getting in crashes. I mean, we've changed. I know, but hang on, Ken. People talked about it being the burden of communism and or fascism when we were talking about seatbelt laws. We talked about mandatory child seats. All of that was talked about as being the arm of communism or Marxism or even fascism, depending on the side of the political party. And that's kind of what I keep seeing in this.
Well, yeah, but when did we leave common sense on the side of the road? When did we say how much is enough?
Yeah, but we did years ago. And if we're talking about common sense, I mean, I hate to bring this up, but Donald Trump's economic policies, you complained about inflation, the price of things right now. His economic policies are directly going to inflate that. His economic policies are going to ensure you will pay more at the store for the stuff you buy across the board. That's what he's doing. His policies that he's outlined are going to increase your bottom line prices. And when I sit here and I keep looking at people saying we have to fight inflation and the high prices, yet advocate for a guy who's going to increase your prices, for me, that is the absence of common sense. I appreciate the phone call, Ken. I really do. Hope you call us back again.
Thanks, but maybe no income tax.
Then how do you derive revenue? How does the government derive revenue? Because we got to pay for those fighter planes.
The beast, baby!
Yeah, but we got to pay for those fighter planes somehow. How are you going to do it?
All right, General Fielder, where the American Lands Council is up next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
7 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Speaking of that song, Bill, I tweeted in what could arguably be the most controversial tweet of my entire career yesterday. It has blown up in ways, and that song reminds me of it.
You're a Cardi B fan. That was what you
No,
announced?
it has to do with kind of the hotter than a habanero.
Oh, okay.
Here's my tweet.
Yeah.
This thing is now nearing 90,000 views.
Wow.
Colorado has the best Mexican food. Better than California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. Better than Mexico, Mexican food.
You're starting to fight. This is great. I love that. I love that. Nice job.
That thing, like almost 365 comments right now on it. That is
fantastic.
Hilarious.
Oh, that's wonderful. You have to update us on how that goes. That's fantastic, my friend. Good
that
job.
Song
Good job.
reminds me of it. Well, good morning. I'm Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up after news and comment with Blake Olson, Jennifer Fielder, the CEO of the American Lands Council, is going to join us. There is a case. All right, this is a moment right now where the Jeff and Bill Show is going to connect you with something that is going to possibly fundamentally transform this nation. You're not hearing about it yet, because we're ahead of it. But the state of Utah is suing the United States of America. And if they win, the Western United States will look totally different in a good way, because the people that live here will actually have control over the land that they live on. There is so much to cover here. You're not going to want to miss it. This is a groundbreaking U.S. Supreme Court case that's coming, and Jennifer Fielder, the American Lands Council, is going to tell us all about it. But first, news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
The Mexican food tweet or on X, that was great, Jeff.
I believe it, man.
Awesome.
I went and had Mexican food in Arizona. I was like, this isn't good. They didn't even have like queso or none of that stuff. Colorado Mexican food is fantastic. It is better than even Mexico Mexican food.
And our Chinese food's a lot better than Chinese food in China. And it goes on and on. Yeah, that's great. 35 and clear in Denver, expecting a high of 66 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, the Broncos releasing a statement that wide receiver Josh Reynolds was a victim of a shooting last Friday in Denver and received treatment for minor injuries. Police say they responded to a call just after 3 a.m. to southbound I-25 in South Quebec. 2 people suffered non-life-threatening injuries. One of them was Reynolds. The circumstances are still unclear and under investigation. 42-year-old Bird Charlesworth was arrested on the 19th, and 35-year-old Luis Mendoza was arrested on the 22nd. Both are being held for investigation of attempted first-degree murder and first-degree assault. Desperation time for the left. All the celebrities, talking heads, politicians, and commies cashing their checks and pushing the fascism narrative. Charlemagne the Dud on with Anderson Cooper on CNN.
Apparently Trump's is going to tape a thing with Joe Rogan. Do you think she should do that?
I think that she should keep calling Donald Trump a fascist. And I think that Americans need to keep looking at the rhetoric of Donald Trump, because I don't know why we're even thinking about electing somebody who's talking about putting people in camps. I don't know why why we want to elect somebody who's talking about mass deportation. I don't know why we're having this conversation about somebody who wants to terminate the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. Aren't we supposed
All of that is a lie, everything he said.
to be a patriotic country? Whenever somebody like Colin Kaepernick takes a knee in this country, everybody talks about, oh, that's so unpatriotic. But a guy can say he wants to terminate the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election and nobody cares.
Everything but that. everything is a lie and spewed out by guys like Charlemagne the Dud. This fascist, Trump, shows up to court to face bogus crimes with no precedents and the victim of the weaponization of the Department of Justice. He's been persecuted from day one, campaigning in 2015 until today, because he speaks for the people, not all the people, the majority of the people, black, white, brown, and anyone in between. Tim, no walls, just ladder factories, shoveling the BS last night.
Praising Adolf Hitler's generals or talking about using the military against their enemies. And I mean, it's pretty stunning. And I said, look, I recognize I'm on the top of his list, but don't kid yourself. You're somewhere on that list too if you disagree with these people. That's who they are.
All right. Reports say Beyonce will be with Kamala Khan at a rally in Houston today. The Harris campaign has not publicly announced that Beyonce's appearance. Bruce Springsteen performed at a rally with Harris Thursday in Georgia, and it looked like a lot of people filed out after the concert. Hunter Biden might get a pardon from the next president if the next president is DJT. In an interview with Salem's Hugh Hewitt, the former president said he wouldn't take it off the books. So President Biden's son pleaded guilty to federal tax charges in September after being found guilty of 3 felonies in June in a federal gun trial. President Biden's head is spinning right now.
Dude, I called this back in February or March. I was like, you should come out and say I'm going to pardon Hunter Biden just to throw the whole thing into a spin. Your dad's going to put you into jail, Hunter. I'm going to let you out. What do you got to say about that?
Right. What happens in 5 or 6 days when Biden comes out and just lets it go and endorses Trump?
Well, you know that once the election's done and Biden he's a lame duck, right? At that point, he's just going to start pardoning everybody. Hunter will be part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I would.
No doubt.
If you had the power to get your own child out of prison, know, and I think Hunter's probably cleaned up his act a little bit. He doesn't seem to be as bad. And maybe I'm a little bit more compassionate, but
you're too nice.
And it was a gun issue, right? It was it was signing, it was a form,
right?
That we put him into prison over.
Yeah,
I'd probably pardon him.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. But you did predict it. I remember it clearly. There's no doubt. Coloradan Eric Stelly filed a lawsuit against McDonald's after testing positive for E. coli a few days after eating at a McDonald's earlier this month. Colorado health officials later told him that his illness was connected to the fast food chain's outbreak, according to the lawsuit. An E. coli outbreak linked to the Quarter Pounder burgers has killed one person in Colorado and sickened dozens. The suit accuses the chain of negligence and product liability.
Blake, I've seen there's a movement online. This is so stupid that it's an act of patriotism now to go eat at McDonald's.
That is funny.
You can love Trump. You don't need to go eat Mickey D's right now, man. You just let it ride.
You saw the QAnon thing though that happened when those E.
that
coli
somehow
breaks
they're
out. Somehow
punishing
it's a
Mickey
deep
D's.
space. Yeah, it was a deep state. It is punishing McDonald's. So Donald Trump goes to a McDonald's, not in Colorado, and the deep state comes to Colorado and puts the E. coli on the burgers and stuff.
In Mesa County.
Right, sure. Okay.
You can just let it ride for a week. They'll clean it up. It'll figure out. It's not an act of patriotism. Go eat a Big Mac right now.
What's more dangerous or as dangerous is the oil or whatever they use in fast food restaurants.
Oh,
now.
yeah. And
That's
the
what
fries.
they're finding out. Yeah.
Yep.
As RFK Jr. talks about. Oh, man. What year is it? College football weekend tomorrow night in Cincinnati. No, actually, it's in Boulder. I'm sorry, Jeff's going. Cincinnati at CU, New Mexico at CSU. Air Force is off. Utah State at WYO, and the Northern Colorado Bears going for 2 straight against number 9 Montana tomorrow in Greeley.
I love it.
As requested by Jeff. Yeah,
That'll
there's
get
Coach
you out of bed
Lamb
on a Friday.
Yeah, bring them up. Bring up the kids. Bring the noise to Nottingham in Greeley tomorrow. It's great family entertainment. Kickoff 1 o'clock in Greeley. Come on up. 34 in Brighton, 33 in Lakewood, 36 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. It's TGIF time. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
It'll be a gorgeous late October weekend here in Denver. Take advantage. Temperatures are going to be climbing into the mid-60s today. Lows tonight, upper 30s and low 40s, into the 70s Saturday, Sunday, Monday. However, do be ready for a chance of showers and temperatures that will be noticeably colder by Tuesday and Wednesday. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
RockyMountainBargains.com, where you'll always pay half price. Why pay retail when you can get what you want at 50% off? Just go to RockyMountainBargains.com and save. Here's this week's.
Could be the most significant lawsuit of our time. And I'm not exaggerating on this. This is actually a really big deal, and media isn't covering it. But when you listen to what it could do, especially for the future of the Western United States, this is a really, really big deal. States, local governments, and other organizations are joining in filing amicus briefs along with the state of Utah to free up Western land, because the federal government has become infamous for its kind of reckless lock it up and let it burn land management policies. And I'm not talking about national parks. Okay, this isn't about Yellowstone. This is about millions of acres of primarily BLM land. In the state of Utah, 69% of the land is owned by the United States, not by the state of Utah, but by the United States. Nearly half that federal land, roughly 18.5 million acres, is unappropriated land in the United States. It's just simply sitting there. It's not used for anything without formally reserving it for any designated power. That means that the state can't use it for natural resource development. It means it can't tax it. It can't do anything with it. And if you're wondering why the Western United States has this issue, but the Midwest and the East doesn't, it's because of a misinterpretation of the law. To help us understand this, it's Jennifer Fielder. She's the CEO of American Lands Council, has joined with an amicus brief in this case. Jennifer, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about why this case is so important, how it could fundamentally transform the Western United States.
Well, the federal government currently owns and controls 640 million acres of land in the United States. That's the equivalent of about 1/3 of the continental United States. And it isn't just Western states. They own land in several states, but it's predominantly in the West. In the Western states, the federal government owns and controls about half of every acre. They can own and control about half of all the land in the Western United States. So we've got a very big problem because the federal government has become an increasingly poor landlord. And I've given presentations on this around the country, and people are so used to the idea that the federal government owns the land that it's kind of a hard thing to wrap your mind around it being any other way. But the people in the states have become exasperated by efforts to work with and cooperate with and coordinate with the federal government for proper land management that finally we're seeing a number of states and local governments and other organizations step up and just call out the wrongness of the federal government being able to control all of this land inside of our states, yet they don't control all of that land inside other states. And aren't we the United States? Aren't we all supposed to be on equal footing with one another? So why the disparity? And that's really what the question seeks to sort out with the court, is simply ask the question, is it constitutional for the federal government to retain all of this land inside of our states without the consent of the state? And when I say all of this land, I should clarify, Utah is focusing on what's termed unappropriated federal land. So you're right, Jeff. This is not talking about the land that's set aside right now as national parks, national monuments, wilderness areas, national forests, tribal lands, or military properties. The unappropriated land in question is simply the land that the federal government holds without any designated purpose. And those lands right now are managed by the Bureau of Land Management. So there is some use on some of those lands happening now, but the access to those lands, the use of those lands for grazing or for watershed development or for mineral production or energy development or anything like that, recreation access, the use of that land is all subject to approval by the federal government. Whereas in the other states, you don't have to go through the red tape of the federal government to determine, how you should use or how you should conserve the land. So there's just a really big disparity between eastern states and western states and Alaska in how the states are able to govern the lands inside their borders. And basically, it's a hands-off, don't touch for the most part with the federal lands. It's causing all kinds of problems inside the states.
Talking with Jennifer Fielder, she's the CEO of American Lands Council. As you point out, this isn't what it's like in the Midwest or the eastern part, but, all the land originally started as federal land, right? We remember the Louisiana Purchase. And then as states came into the Union, over time, the land was ceded to the state to manage within Kansas, Nebraska, Illinois, Louisiana, all those states. But then something changed with the Western United States. Why isn't the land being given back to the states in the West?
I think it's just because we're newer states. Really, there was a policy of the federal government divesting title to the land. And that's why you had the Homestead Act and railroad grants and school trust land grants. And all of these land transfers have occurred over time where the federal government disposed of, is the legal term. They disposed of their control of federal land, and then it became under state control. So, for example, the states right now in the West own and control about 40 million acres of state-owned public land. So we've got state parks, we've got state wildlife refuges, we've got state forests, we've got a variety of different types of state public lands. But 40 million acres in comparison to 640 million acres is a pretty big disparity. So it's just, the Midwestern states and the new Western states of the early 1830s included Florida and Iowa and Missouri and all those newer states back then, 100 years ago, actually 200 years ago. They made the same arguments we're making. Basically, they said, "Hey, you're treating us like a red-headed stepchild. You're not allowing us to govern the lands inside of our state. We came into statehood. We had an agreement that we would be a state, and we formed and organized, and were given, formed an agreement with Congress that we would be a state. And then Congress didn't uphold the promise of allowing the state to really be a state. So those states fought back in the 1830s and 40s and so forth, and they finally gained control of their lands. And it's just the new generation of the new Western states stepping up and finally saying, enough is enough, federal government. You were supposed to dispose of these lands. It's in our Statehood Enabling Act. The promises are the same between the eastern states and the western states, but the federal government simply held back. And in fact, they even formalized a law in I believe it was the 1970s, that would say that no, it was the 80s. They said that the federal government's going to go ahead and just keep the lands indefinitely now, regardless of what the state wants or regardless of if the state is ready and able to care for the lands more responsibly. The federal government said, we're just going to keep it. So they literally changed the terms of statehood with a policy of the United States. And in the terms of statehood, it was a federal compact. It was a compact between the state government and the federal government. And then comes along some policy that the federal government imposed, a one-sided policy. And I think Utah's case has a great deal of merit because, when there's a contract or a compact between two parties, one can't just come in and unilaterally change it. It would have had to have been done with the consent of the state. So there's a lot of constitutional questions involved in this, but the main one is, it's pretty simple. Does the federal government have the constitutional authority to retain, literally millions of acres inside of a state? In Utah's case, it's the federal government's retaining 2/3 of the entire state of Utah, and about half of that is retained with no specified purpose, meaning it's not national parks, it's not national monuments, it's not national forests, it's just simply unappropriated land that they don't have any designated or constitutional purpose for. So very good question, and it's an interesting question to several states for many reasons. First of all, although this case centers on 18.5 million acres in Utah, which is about 34% of Utah's landmass, we expect the legal action to have far-reaching impacts because that same policy, the Federal Land Policy Management Act that changed the statehood enabling terms, governs 245 million acres of public lands. It's overseen by the Bureau of Land Management that's spread across 11 western states, Alaska, the Dakotas, and a few eastern states. So we believe the answer to this question is going to apply really broadly through our country.
And to Colorado as well. Colorado's ranked 11th in the nation in federal land ownership. 36% of our total land here in Colorado is owned by the federal government. So one of the critiques is, well, if we do this, all of a sudden, all the oil companies are just going to frack all over the West, and it's going to destroy the beauty of the Western United States. If Utah wins, Jennifer Fielder, CEO of American Lands Council, if Utah wins this case, is it going to be the destruction of the Western United States to fracking?
No. Utah has been a real leader in this, and while the federal government has become infamous for its reckless lock it up and let it burn land management policies, the state of Utah over the last several years has been taking serious and thoughtful steps toward beneficial care and management of these lands. So Utah's enacted several different pieces of legislation to prepare itself to manage the lands because they believed for a long time that the federal government had no constitutional authority to own and control these lands. And while they were building their legal case, they also prepared their state to be able to care for the lands responsibly with local involvement, local control, overseen by the people in the state. And just think about it. Those of us that live here in the West, we care about our lands and our environment and our surroundings far more than the people and the representatives who represent the eastern states. They have a different take on how to manage their states and what to do there than we do. So we just want to make sure that the people who live in the western states and who have elected officials that represent us are the ones that are making the decisions about how to manage wildfire risks, how to manage our watersheds so that we can have optimal water production that supplies our cities and our communities with clean water. We want to be able to manage the air quality. As you know, these federal forest fires are spewing tons of toxic pollution into our air. And it's just become amazing how they've gone from being a firefighting type of an agency into a fire lighting type of an agency. There's some amazing work that's been documented on how the federal government is now using burning of the landscape in order to manage it as kind of their first tool in the toolbox rather than the last tool in the toolbox. There's other things we can do to reduce vegetation and make the landscape healthy and make it fire resilient. Logging, for one, selective logging to reduce vegetation thoughtfully and in a way that produces, merchantable timber that supplies our country with the things it needs to build homes and other things, and minerals and energy development and grazing, for production of livestock and all the benefits that America reaps from having strong agriculture, farming, and all these different things. The landscape holds a lot of potential. And also for recreation, there's a lot of areas that we just want to go out and enjoy that are being locked up. And that was really kind of the final straw. And I think what got Utah and their entire congressional delegation, so you got a wide spectrum from Mike Lee, who's one of the most conservative U.S. senators in representing a state. And then you've got Mitt Romney, who's a lot less conservative than Mike Lee, let's just say. And they both joined together to file a friend of the court brief with the other, all the other delegates from the Utah congressional delegation to say, you know what, the court needs to answer this question once and for all.
Jennifer Fielder, CEO of American Lands Council, joining Jeff and Bill live. We're talking about Utah versus the United States, whether or not states or the federal government should have control of, as Jennifer accurately outlined, unappropriated federal land, not the national parks, not tribal land, stuff that's basically fallow right now. Okay, Jennifer, I know you don't listen to the show all the time. My job is to ask the difficult questions. I'm not taking the side of the federal government, but I want to get your response to what I believe is going to be probably the strongest thrust of the federal government argument. And it will be twofold. One, we're the federal government. We know better than you states because we see the entire picture of the country and individual states don't take that into account. Plus, the idea of corporations haven't necessarily been the best stewards of the land, and we're trying to preserve the land. I feel that's the two strongest arguments they're going to make. How do you counteract that?
Well, first of all, it's pretty easy to prove that the federal government is absolutely the worst landlord there is. When you look at their economic performance, the western states are outperforming the federal government by about 10-1 on responsible public land management. And when you look at the metric of best management practices for how the management is being applied to the landscape, the federal government always falls in last place. When those are actual scientific metrics that are used for governing and measuring, how well a land steward is taking care of the land, whether it's a state agency, a local agency, a private landowner, or the federal government. Those metrics, time and time again, demonstrate that the federal government is not a good landlord, is the least best of the land stewards. So you have that. And on the other, going to the first point that you made, well, you know what? There's this little thingy called the United States Constitution. All right. And the original states created the federal government, and never in their wildest dreams did they conjure up this notion that the federal government knew best for their state. No, they united in order to have strength where they needed it to defend their states from outside attacks. They united so that they could establish a structure of government so that the states could interact and trade with each other in a consistent way. But they did not enact the United States in order to create this behemoth federal government that would control their states. That was never the intention. If that was, it wouldn't have passed. Because all of those delegates from all of those states went there representing their people and their citizens' interests, and they agreed to join together in a more perfect union so that all of the states could get along with each other and prosper and join together when they needed to help each other out, especially for defending against foreign wars and those types of things. And also to establish trade, like a standard for money, a standard for currency, and things like that, so we could work together. So I don't think the federal government's going to be able to win the constitutional question here. They'll make all sorts of arguments, no doubt, and they have in the past. It's been rather interesting to hear their arguments that demonstrate they really have no understanding, and some of these federal agencies have either no understanding or no appreciation or respect for the constitutional balance of powers.
No, yeah, that is the quote of the day right
that was
there,
great. That was
Jennifer
fantastic.
Fielder. Jennifer, real quick here, we're up against a break, but when is this case? It's been docketed at the U.S. Supreme Court, but when should people expect to hear oral arguments?
Well, first of all, we're in what's called the stage 1 briefing. So this is where the court did. Let's see. Utah filed the case on August 20th of 2024. There was a 60-day period in which folks could get involved in the case. So you've seen that just expired about 3 days ago, October 22nd. Everyone had to file their amicus briefs, their friend of the court briefs, and the federal government had 60 days to respond also to the complaint of Utah. But the federal government asked for an extension, so they've got another 30 days. They've got until November 21st to formulate their response. We're in the stage 1 amicus brief period, or this stage 1 briefing period really is designed to bring the arguments that explain to the court why they should even take the case up. So the court hasn't decided to hear the case yet. They have to make that determination, and we expect that they'll probably be making the determination of whether to take the case after November 21st, after the federal government is able to make its arguments. Of course, the court will need time to review all of the arguments that have been filed, including Utah's primary argument, and then all of the briefings that have been submitted by friends of the court and the federal government. So we think maybe around January, they might be making the decision on whether or not they'll actually accept and hear the case. And after that, most of the cases that the federal government or that the U.S. Supreme Court is hearing, I kind of scrolled through some of their dockets last night, and it looks like it takes on average, about a year for a case to work its way all the way through to a final decision from the time the court decides to take it.
Well, there's no one better advancing this issue than the American Lands Council. Jennifer Fielder, CEO of American Lands Council, thanks so much for joining us. I strongly encourage people, go to AmericanLandsCouncil.org to see this case, learn more about it, support the work of the American Lands Council, because they are going to free up the people of the Western United States to be able to make decisions about the land that they live on, and not require on these bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. to control so much of it. This, I believe, is one of the cases that could really free up the Western United States to become the economic powerhouse that they could be. Jennifer Fielder, thanks so much for taking time to join us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me. Have a great day.
Again, the website, AmericanLandsCouncil.org. Billy, tell us about Balanced Wall Space.
Yeah, I've been working with this amazing medical team that is taking away the pain that I had in my life for years. For over a decade, I thought that just getting old meant getting hurt and then things aching, and you wake up in the morning going, oh God, and it takes you a little while to warm up. It doesn't have to be that way. But I didn't find this out until I talked to the medical team at Balanced Well Space. Balanced Well Space is a brand new medical facility here in Colorado. They've opened up an office, brand new, in Lowry, right across from Hangar 2, plenty of parking, and the difference is integrative medicine. What that means is you can get a variety of treatments all under one roof. Think of it like a shopping mall or a food court, but for your pain and suffering. They offer you chiropractic care, neuropathic care, physical rehabilitation, wave therapy, regenerative care, trigger point injections, and a whole slew of just Star Trek level cutting edge modalities that can get you feeling better. None of them are invasive. That means no cutting, no sewing, no nothing like that. This isn't surgical. This is about using your body's ability to heal, but kickstarting it with these amazing treatments. They used a thing called Synexus on portions of my back, where through my neck and my lower back, the muscles had tightened because I had so many problems in that area. So the muscles had tightened almost permanently to help keep me stable. They came in there and shot some electrodes through those muscles, all non-invasive, and everything freed up. Now my back isn't as stiff anymore, and my right shoulder feels better than it has in 20 years. As you and I are talking right now, I'm regenerating one of the discs in my lower back. Two of my vertebrae were fusing together. We pulled them apart. Now we're regenerating the disc. I'm regenerating the meniscus in my left knee. My left knee is now my strong knee. My right knee is now my weak knee, and we're going to be working on that. Call Balance Wellspace, balancewellspace.com, balancewellspace.com. They'll do a custom evaluation of where you are, put together a custom pain plan, and the cool thing is, every couple of weeks, they reevaluate you. Your current medical team isn't doing that. They check back in with you, and they reevaluate how their treatment is getting you to your goals. You don't have to live your life in pain. I'm not doing it, and I want you to experience the same difference in your life that I have, thanks to the amazing people at Balance Wellspace. BalanceWellspace.com, BalanceWellspace.com. And when you do call them, tell them you heard about them here on Jeff and Bill, because, it helps us out so much. Thank you.
Great to hear that, Bill. We'll continue. KBB's up next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
protect school choice is on the ballot in Colorado. Amendment 80. It's run by Advance Colorado. And joining us is Christy Burton Brown, Executive Vice President of Advance Colorado. Now, we've discussed, Christy, what Amendment 80 does. We've gone after some of the concerns raised even within the conservative movement about Amendment 80. We had Steve Schuck on yesterday. But you guys are running the campaign. You put this on the ballot. Can you give us an update on how things are going? Do you need help from people? And give us a sense of the numbers you might be seeing out there on Amendment 80 at this point.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jeff and Bill, for having me on again. I think what a really important update for people about Amendment 80 is what the National Teachers Union is doing. They are investing at this point $4 million, projected to spend more because we're still 11 days out from the election. But they're investing millions of dollars out of teachers' pockets into Colorado to put ads up on TV to lie to people about what Amendment 80 does. Saying that it would impact public school funding, take money away from kids who go to neighborhood public schools, and nothing could be further from the truth. The Blue Book, which is the state's analysis done by nonpartisan analysts of Amendment 80, says the fiscal impact is $0. You literally can't get less funding than $0, and yet the National Teachers Union is so afraid of us preserving our right to school choice in Colorado that they're spending millions of out-of-state money to lie to people.
Well, let's talk about the total spent against you all. It's not just the $4 million, I think you mentioned, coming from the National Teachers Unions, but I mean, there's a lot of money pouring into the state to try to stop Amendment 80. Should that in itself tell voters here in Colorado?
Well, I mean, I think it should tell them a lot. Like, it's very important to look at who is for something and who's against something. And one of the other organizations against Amendment 80 is Americans United for the Separation of Church and State. They have also put money against Amendment 80. The ACLU is against Amendment 80. Like, these are organizations that, as conservatives, stand against our values. And if they're telling us that Amendment 80 is bad, almost without fail, when you have these kind of organizations against something, it means that they are afraid of a good constitutional principle that this law would enact. And as we talked before on your show, Jeff, Amendment 80 is very basic, very simple. It would take our right to school choice, parents' ability to choose the best school for their child's unique needs, and put it in our Constitution so that it's no longer at the mercy of politicians. These organizations want to have the ability to mess with us in Colorado. They tried last legislative session to shut charter schools down in Colorado. They've taken away some ability for homeschool families to have good education by messing with the State Board of Education. My Tech High is especially what they were taking away funding from. So they have an agenda. Amendment 80 would interfere with that agenda because it would say, hands off politicians. People in Colorado, parents in Colorado have the right to choose school choice for their kids. It doesn't impact public school funding, but they want people to think it does, because that's how they think they can defeat it.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right, because it comes down to the fact that progressives are changing when it comes to the idea of school choice in the state. They used to generally be for it. Jared Polis had his own charter schools, but the more kind of Tim Hernandez, Elizabeth Epswing that wants to get control of the state really doesn't. I mean, just here's some of the organizations that are opposed to it. This will help you. The Democrat Party, the Green Party, the ACLU, the Bell Policy Center, the AFL-CIO, the Colorado Immigrants' Rights Coalition. I don't know why they're speaking into this. The New Era Colorado, One Colorado. I mean, all the like ultimate progressive organizations have come out against it. And at this point, they've raised nearly $4 million. Is that right? To try to oppose it. Is it bigger than that at this point?
It is bigger than that. So the $4 million is from the National Teachers Union alone. They have about another $1 million that they've raised from these other organizations you're naming, and then projected to get up to 8 or 10 million by the time we're done.
Wow. And how is your side doing?
We also are spending. There's millions on our side, but it's practically impossible to match the teachers union when their national organization comes in. Unfortunately, there are not national conservative organizations coming in supporting it with dollars. They all support it, in name and say, this is a great thing, we need to do it. But often the other side is unfortunately a lot better rallying their national organizations to come in. And I think the reason for that, Jeff, is because this would be the first in the nation states to put the right to school choice, your right to pick whatever school you want for your kid, in a state constitution. It put the right to homeschool in the state constitution, the right to have charter schools in Colorado in the state constitution. That's not something that's been done. And so the National Teachers Union sees that as a huge, huge threat.
Yeah. And this is an issue that, from my perspective, and I've talked to a lot of other conservatives on this that may even have some potential concerns about the language. I've run into this before where they're like, well, there might be an issue further down the road that may be problematic with Amendment 80. But look, this is a yes or no on school choice in Colorado. And if we lose this, the teachers' unions are going to run around all over the state going, look, they don't want school choice. They don't want school choice. And they're going to use it to start to whittle away at our rights as parents. This is one of the most important ballot initiatives. Amendment 80. You got to support it. Now, Christy Burton Brown, people wanted to get involved with the campaign. How do they do that?
Or they can go to advancecolorado.org, contact us, let us know what you want to do. Vote yes on 80.com is another website to send out to your friends and neighbors, anyone you know. I think make sure your fellow conservatives know what's going on here and that the teachers union wants to defeat this. And we know they do not share our values. And that's why we need to pass Amendment 80.
It's about power for them. And we want to put the power with the parents. All right. Christy Burton Brown, Executive Vice President, Advance Colorado. Thanks so much for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show.
Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Jeff and Bill. Thank you.
All right, coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, Danielle Jurinsky on all the latest updates in Aurora.
Yeah, and you know, Jeff, I've heard a rumor that they're letting us out of the studio next week. Tuesday, we are going to be at IHOP. We're going to be at the IHOP on Mississippi, just west of 225, doing the entire show there. Come on out, have breakfast with us. You'll get to see what we're like really in person, and we love hanging out with you and talking with you during the breaks and after the show and everything else. So we're going to be at the IHOP 6 to 10 this coming Tuesday on Mississippi, just west of 225. Mike Boyle from the restaurant show is going to be there as well. He'll be walking around and shaking hands, so spend some time chatting with Mike. So we'd love to see you out there. And a reminder of Peter's Halloween show that is coming up tomorrow. For more than 20 years, Peter has been going to haunted houses. He's assembled an all-star cast that is going to come in studio and join him on the phone to recount some of the best and worst experiences over Halloween. That kicks off at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, so don't miss that.
By the way, Danielle Jurinsky is on Fox right now.
Hey, all right. Look at us. Look at how we roll.
Soon as she finishes, she's coming over to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Look at that. I love
all right.
that.
You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
RockyMountainBargains.com, where you'll always pay half price. Why pay retail when you can get what you want at 50% off? Just go to RockyMountainBargains.com and save. Here's this week's featured item.
$100 gift cards from Sean D's Persian Grill in the Denver Tech Center. Get them now for half price.
Get it now at RockyMountainBargains.com for 50% off. RockyMountainBargains.com, where you always pay half price. Restrictions apply. Go to RockyMountainBargains.com for complete details.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, Danielle Jurinsky is going to join us. And man, the emails coming out from Aurora PD they got via FOIA request. Oh, shocking. They knew about this in November of last year. They knew that TDA was going to make their headquarters Denver. Do you remember when we just first talked about this and the media ran out there and said, no, it's code violations. They knew this gang was operating. They knew they wanted to make Denver its headquarters. Do you know why they wanted to make Denver its headquarters? Because we're a sanctuary city and a sanctuary state with an open border president. That is why. We're going to cover more with Danielle. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 8 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on this Friday, October 25th, 2024. We've got a whole lot planned for you this hour. Coming up after news and comment, Danielle Jarinsky is going to join us, Aurora City Council at-large member, exposing all of what's been happening with regards to TDA. She's the one that refused to back down. She was getting messages from police. Listen to this email that was leaked yesterday. Our government officials were made aware by ICE and HSI that TDA was planning to make Denver their headquarters due to sanctuary policies and location. They didn't inform the public and gaslit pretty much all of us when we tried to expose it. That comes from Do Better Denver. Here's the email language. This is from Officer Walters, Gang Intervention Unit, Aurora Police Department. Here, TDA is the bulletin I plan on sending out to our department wide tomorrow. This was in November of 2023. I added the intel from HSI that I received today. I spoke with an ICE agent who reached out to his intel guy. The guy got back rather quickly and stated, so this is from ICE intel to Aurora Police Department in November of 2023. TDA has decided to make Denver their headquarters due to sanctuary policies and location. This is what our elected official leadership is doing for us right here. And then they hide it when we try to figure out why our people, our neighbors, are having to deal with Venezuelan gangs walking around with long guns. Do you remember when Channel 9 said that, no, there's nothing here. There's nothing here. This is just code violations, guys. And then the video of all the long guns came out. Now we have evidence that Aurora police knew what TDA was doing, trying to make Denver their headquarters due to sanctuary policies. You're not going to hear from Mike Johnston on this. I guarantee you will not hear from Mike Johnston on this. We have got to force him to respond. We're going to talk to Danielle Jarinsky in just a second. But first, news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning. That's amazing. Thank you, Jeff and Billy. 36 and partly cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 66 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
We've got a very big problem because the federal government has become an increasingly poor landlord. And I've given presentations on this around the country, and people are so used to the idea that the federal government owns the land that it's kind of a hard thing to wrap your mind around it being any other way.
Jennifer Fielder, CEO, American Lands Council, on with Jeff and Billy last hour. The West wants change. Utah is taking the lead. The federal government owns and controls about half of all the land in the West. Is it constitutional for the federal government to retain all this land without the consent of the state? They're hoping the court will take the case.
But the people in the states have become exasperated by efforts to work with and cooperate with and coordinate with the federal government for proper land management, that finally we're seeing a number of states and local governments and other organizations step up and just call out the wrongness of the federal government being able to control all of this land inside of our states, yet they don't control all of that land inside other states.
Great work. Unappropriated federal lands does not include national parks, wilderness areas, and national monuments. Broncos wide receiver Josh Reynolds was a victim of a shooting last Friday in Denver and received treatment for minor injuries. Police say they responded to a call just after 3 a.m. to southbound I-25 in South Quebec. 2 people suffered non-life-threatening injuries. One of them was Reynolds. The circumstances are still unclear and under investigation. 42-year-old Burr Charlesworth was arrested on the 19th, and 35-year-old Luis Mendoza was arrested on the 22nd. Both are being held for investigation of attempted first-degree murder and first-degree assault. Democrats are desperate and pushing the fascist narrative and saying that Trump told General Kelly he wanted generals like Hitler had. Why did he just bring this up? It couldn't be that the election is just over a week away, could it? And why did he continue to work for him? He's a fraud. October lie, but the Kamala Khan campaign continues to be led by the Obama-Clinton machine, and hideous Clinton on CNN pushing the narrative.
And, one other thing that you'll see next week, Caitlin, is Trump actually reenacting the Madison Square Garden rally in 1939. I write about this in my book.
Oh, I'll go out and buy it.
President Franklin Roosevelt was appalled that neo-Nazis, fascists in America were lining up to essentially pledge their support for the kind of government that they were seeing in Germany. So I don't think we can ignore it.
Reports say that Beyonce will be on with Kamala Khan at a rally in Houston today, but the best stuff coming out is on social media these days.
So get out and vote. Keep jump around. Jump around. Keep jump around.
Yeah.
Jump around. Jumps up, Kamala's going down. I'm the cream of the crop. I rise when I'm shot. Some started from the bottom, but I've always been on top. Painting me as a dictator. Some type of super trader.
Former President Obama spoke last night, and thanks, Barry. The Trump campaign took it and turned it into a great ad for the Trumpster.
Many folks here in Georgia and across the country are struggling to pay the bills. We all know the price of everything from housing to health care to groceries is still too high, and it hurts.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Great job. Hunter Biden might get a pardon from the next president if the president is DJT. In an interview with Salem's Hugh Hewitt, the former president said that he wouldn't take it off the books. President Biden's son pleaded guilty to federal tax charges in September after being found guilty in 3 felonies in June in a federal gun trial. President Biden's head right now is a little bit confused at that. But you know what? Jeff predicted it right on this show in February. A former rideshare driver is facing a long prison term after being convicted of 30 charges connected to a string of kidnappings and sexual assaults. John Pastor Mendoza was found guilty Thursday in Denver District Court. Investigators say he was responsible for 12 kidnappings between 2018 and 2022, with 2 resulting in sexual assault and the rest being attempted sexual assaults. His sentencing is set for March 7th. College football this weekend. Tomorrow night, it's Cincinnati at CU and New Mexico at CSU. Air Force is off. Utah State at WYO. And Northern Colorado goes for 2 straight wins against number 9 Montana. It's Kids Day. Bring the family to Greeley. Jeff and Billy continue. TGIF.
Where are you going? Why'd you hit me in public? Do you think this is how you behave? Is this what you do with your friends and family? When you get mad, you turn around and start hitting people? What is wrong with you? Who tells you this is okay?
Blake Olson, News Talk 710, KNUS.
It'll be a gorgeous late October weekend here in Denver. Take advantage. Temperatures are going to be climbing into the mid-60s today. Lows tonight, upper 30s and low 40s, into the 70s. Saturday, Sunday, Monday. However, do be ready for a chance of showers and temperatures that will be noticeably colder by Tuesday and Wednesday. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
What is going on with this song?
It's looped.
Is it?
Yeah, just that the edit is off a little bit. Yeah.
I keep expecting Ed to jump in there and be like,
no, they loop the front part of it, but you get the opening. Yeah, that's it. That's it. The song's looped, which is great.
That is
a great
funny.
trick.
So we've got coming up in just a few minutes, Danielle Jurinsky is going to be joining us because the stuff in Aurora just continues to just come out. And we've got to get Kaufman on here because I don't understand how they knew about all this.
At least just didn't tell us. That's the thing.
And then gaslit everybody who's like, no, it's the landlord. They're terrible. Yeah. And you have email evidence from Aurora police that they knew that specific location on Nome Street was a problem. So they're always like, send multiple units anytime you go there because it's not safe. Now we find out that TDA, they knew in November of last year that TDA was making Denver their headquarters, and they even write in an email internally to each other due to these sanctuary policies and the location. I guess what drives me crazy, Bill, about all this is like Mike Johnston doesn't care.
Don't think so?
He's reading this and he's going to go, whatever.
You don't think so? You don't think he cares?
Not about this. Not about the downside of being a sanctuary city.
I don't know. And
do you see him reversing course on this?
Well, the issue being, for me, it's more the issue of, it's not that, I have a hard time coming to the conclusion that he just doesn't care. That he's just like, okay, these gangs and everything else are fine. I have a hard time coming to that conclusion. I have a question about why we weren't told about it sooner. I'm curious what that reason is. Almost the idea of, what was the decision-making process? Was it because if they told everybody, everybody would freak out about it? If they told everybody, certain things would happen. If they told everybody, the gang would take on a different tactic or would do something, become more public or start more intimidation in that area? Would the gang become more vicious in that area if people were warned about it? I don't know what the process is, but I'm super curious because I can't figure it out. I can't figure out why keeping it a secret helps. That's why I'm giving a little bit of grace to figure out what it is, what your motivation is, or because I hate to think that it is just flat out stupidity or ignorance about the idea.
I'll tell you why I think they don't care, because I think it's cut from the same cloth as Jason Crow. And what did Jason do earlier this week to address the serious problems facing the people of Aurora? He held a conference on how the words are hurting people.
Yeah. And that's fair, but I'm not certain that we can say that Jason Crow doesn't care about the violence. I think that he's misdirected on what he thinks the cause is.
I have no evidence to see that he does care.
But again, I'm not sure we can come to the idea that he doesn't, though. And that's the other part, is that, that it's somehow that this is, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That's a hard leap for me, because what I hear in that, honestly, is politics, not reason. I hear the people have a letter beside their name that is not the letter I have by my name. And because of that, I am going to assume they wanted this to happen. That's the problem I'm having with that idea.
I'm not going too far. Well, maybe I could go as far as to say that they wanted this to happen, but I can definitely tell you they're not doing anything about it. And I don't see any evidence, concern or otherwise, statements, movement that says, take this issue on, protect our citizens. The only people doing that are John Fabricatore and Danielle Jurinsky.
The only ones doing it publicly that we know of right now, because we have that email directly from the police department talking about the danger and what's going on with TDA. So for me, the idea of ignoring it, that's where I disagree. What I'm looking at is the public communication. I want to know why, even though they knew about it, we were not told. And then I think you have a wonderful point about why it became an issue, both with the election that happened, the celebration inside the parking lot in the Target, and then also what is happening with the apartment buildings, why that is not dealt with publicly. What is it that you're not making statements public facing because you heard from the public that they were concerned? So I'm super curious about why that mechanism, why we didn't have any communication about it, when obviously behind the scenes they were concerned, because we have emails showing concern.
I will tell you why I think it's happening. It is for Mike Johnston, and I don't put Mike Kaufman in this position, but Mike Johnston, Jared Polis have doubled down, tripled down, bet their political careers on a public policy that believes sanctuary cities and sanctuary states are, quote, compassionate. That's their motivation, right? We are the land of immigrants. So in that thinking, they, and I don't say everybody because I believe we are a land of immigrants. I don't have problems with natural, legal immigration to this country. It is this open border belief that we can welcome all these people in. And Mike Johnston has put us in a position now where we've spent $100 million on a budget line item out of the city of Denver that wasn't originally there. So now they're scrambling to get these new propositions on the ballot and cutting money from police, all that to be able to pay for it. You have criminals that have entered our state and city as a result of these policies. They look very bad politically for them, so they won't acknowledge them. I'm just searching Mike Johnston's Twitter account right now on anything Venezuela or TDA related, nothing. Zero. But he'll go out there and say he has the blueprint for all the cities on what to do with regards to illegal immigration. So I think this is a political scandal that's showing that their leadership is failing the people of Colorado. They don't want to acknowledge it. They keep ignoring it. Anytime this pops up, they try to shut it down. I mean, for Pete's sake, Jared Polis called the police on Danielle Jurinsky, not even TDA. And maybe he did. I haven't seen any real strong leadership that he wants to take on the Venezuelan gangs in the city of Aurora. But Danielle Jurinsky's got a video. Now I'm calling the police on it. And he talked all about how he needed to call the police on it. So
you make an interesting point on that. You make a really interesting point on the definition and the defense of sanctuary cities and sanctuary policies. You might have something there that because they have pronounced so often that they are supporters of the sanctuary cities and sanctuary policies, that they can't intellectually walk themselves back. They can't say we were wrong, or they can't say in certain cases this is wrong. And you may have something there, and that could be why they're being placed in the box. I'm still not certain that Mike Johnston wants this to happen, and the reason being this. One, gang members. I can't believe that even if you're a super lib, that you're going to advocate for more gang members inside of your community, even if you love all the illegals. The other part being that inside the sanctuary city policies, if you want them to work, you can't have the crime and the gang members. So the existence of the gang would disprove the functionality of the sanctuary city process, as you pointed out. So that's why I don't think that the politicians necessarily don't care, because this would disprove their ability to say the sanctuary city and the immigrants are all wonderful, all coming here for a better life. So that's where I push back on that one, on the idea of they don't care. But I do think that you have got a solid point on the idea of because they have owned it, they can't go back and say that it doesn't work. Even in this case, it has to be able to work, or they can't say it isn't working, because then that defeats the purpose of their sanctuary city and sanctuary state. I think you got something there. I think that's why they box themselves in. It would make sense.
Man, I sure would love politicians. Yeah. Hey, Kamala Harris got asked this the other day. What have you done wrong?
I know.
Have a few to just go, guys, yes. I got it wrong on this. And
And you know what? And here's the thing: this is a totally different subject, but it's somewhat tangential. The really bad answer she had with Anderson Cooper on immigration, awful answer. But what she could have done is say, you know what? I have learned this based on the process. And guess what she could have done? She could have said, I've learned this, and I've learned the Republicans don't want to do X, Y, and Z. She still could have thrown rocks. Yeah. She still could have, but it just has to open up the idea of, I was wrong on this, and I have learned, and now we move forward. And that's so hard for people to do.
I think it's part of being a politician. You just can't ever admit it.
Yeah, that's true. Because it ends up in a soundbite in the commercial.
We're going to have Danielle Jurinsky joining us. Stick around. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
We are Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
the Aurora City Council member at large, is joining us. Danielle, we saw the video. It was released in The Guardian or the Daily Mail that you had talked to Jared Polis about. Give us an update. How are things going in Aurora with TDA?
Well, they're not going good. There's a whole bunch of video footage that is going to continue to get released. There's a whole bunch of emails that are going to continue to get released. And I asked the governor to call me at the last council meeting. I pled with him during closing reports. I asked him to put politics aside and to call me, that I would like to discuss this with him and show video footage to him to try and once and for all get the truth out. And he turned around Tuesday morning and he called the police on me. So that's how things are going in Aurora.
I mean, are you working? It's amazing to me. I'm watching these emails come out. We just talked about it right before you joined us, that they knew that Denver was becoming the central point for TDA because of the sanctuary city policies. I mean, they knew. Aurora knew. I'm guessing Denver.
A lot more than just yes.
Denver
it will
knows.
All come out. It's all going to come out. Believe me.
Why do you think they're not working with you to address this? They're not working with law enforcement. They're just allowing this. It seems like they're just allowing this to happen. Do you have any insight on that?
Well, they are. I mean, they absolutely are. And, you have HSI agents that will testify to how they've been treated in Aurora when they were sent here, from their stations to help us, and how certain officers in our command staff treated them. It is like they don't want anybody's help. They don't care. I don't know if some of them just don't want to work. I'm not sure really where we're at. I was hopeful in bringing in a new police chief, a permanent police chief, that there would be a shakeup once and for all, and he would be able to see through this. But understand this cover up. You look at the dates of these emails. This goes back to when we had interim police chief Art Acevedo. That's when this started. That's when this narrative started. And then that followed along to interim police chief Heather Morris. So she had to keep up the narrative. Now here we are to a permanent police chief, Todd Chamberlain, who I thought was going to shake the trees, but he's keeping himself surrounded by the exact same people that have upheld the exact same narrative this entire time.
And what gets me, Danielle, is why city leadership, I feel like really it's just you and maybe a handful of others on the city council. Why the police chief? Why the mayor? Why Denver? Why Colorado is saying, I don't want to see another headline about TDA affecting our citizens, period. Go figure it out.
Yeah.
Where is that leadership right now? Why is this all upon you?
Well, I don't know. You said, why isn't asking anybody what is happening? Why is this affecting our citizens? Well, maybe it's because, in fact, this is also not just affecting our citizens. This is affecting the other folks whom they let in to this country. So maybe that's why they don't care. I'm not sure, but I certainly care. And I've taken the time to sit down and listen to their stories. And I have the video footage and I have the testimonies and I have the internal emails. I have all the things. I have people reaching out to me from all kinds of different law enforcement agencies. Now I have paramedics reaching out to me. I have firefighters reaching out to me, telling me to go look into this. I mean, they don't get it. All I want is the truth. I want the truth because there will not be solutions until the truth comes out. So I'm asking for the truth. And then can we have a conversation about a solution? Because I don't actually know what me by myself I'm supposed to do with this transnational criminal organization in the city of Aurora, much less the state of Colorado. I'm not sure what me, Danielle Jurinsky, what I'm supposed to do other than exactly what I am doing and telling the truth.
Now, Danielle Jurinsky, Aurora City Councilwoman at large, joining us. I got to put a pin on that. I think that's a wonderful statement. What exactly are any of us individually supposed to do in these cases. It is a feeling of helplessness. It's a feeling of powerlessness. And also, Danielle, I have to give you huge compliments because evidently this feature of your imagination is massive. It's absolutely tremendous, because that was, they poked fun at you and said you were totally making this up. But now you are dropping the receipts on the table. And with the promise that there are potentially more videos and more emails that are coming as well. Okay, Danielle, I'm going to ask a hard question. I'm not sure all times. I don't ask fair questions at times. And it's a difficult question. What I'm looking for is, why can we just imagine? We're just going to brainstorm right now the reason why possibly the police departments didn't want to come forward and talk to the public about a potential danger, because you're a parent, I'm a parent, Jeff's a parent. One of the things you do when they're growing up and they're real little is talk to them about the dangers of things like electricity and learning to swim. You don't go over and put the fork into the electrical outlet because of things that can happen. You teach them that. You talk to them about the sharpness of knives, about broken glass. And then as they grow, you talk to them about the dangers of hanging out with the wrong crowd and getting involved in drugs and making other bad choices. Part of what you need to be doing is explaining to the people involved the potential danger. Why do you feel like you, Jeff, myself, and our listeners and the rest of Aurora were not told about the potential danger? Why did it have to be a secret?
That's the $1 million question. That's what I don't understand. When I went in and moved the Romeros out, going all the way back, when I first started asking questions, when police officers were coming to me and I was hearing about this gang and these apartments falling under control of this gang, and it's unimaginable, right? So I started asking questions. And you think you should be able to depend on your leadership, on your directors, to give you good information. But the noise started getting too loud. It started becoming too many police officers coming to me, to the point that they started asking for help even. We need more numbers out here, Danielle. And so then when I learned about the Romeros, and I went in there to get Romero, to get them out of there, I thought, all right, this is it. This is it. I'm going to get these people out of here. And I did actually help another gentleman out, but that didn't make the media because he didn't have any video footage to release. But I said, all right, this is going to be it. I'm going to get these people out. They're going to be able to tell their story, how they've been living, show all the locks, show all the bullet holes in their car. And that's going to be it. And the truth will finally be out. And then there's going to be a solution. That's how I saw this going. I didn't see this turning into the political football game that it has. And by the way, when this came out about the Romeros, who were lifelong Democrats, made very clear to me they never voted for a Republican in their lives. And I didn't ask their party affiliation, by the way, when I went in there to move them out. But when I moved them out, and this story came out, the Democrats in this state could have owned this. Jared Polis, Jason Crow, they could have come forward and said, unacceptable. Unacceptable under our watch in this city. We want our federal partners here now. We are going to they could have owned this. They could have written me out of the story. Because at that point, all I'd done was move some residents out of an apartment complex. That's all I'd done at that point.
Oh no.
Oh, it was getting so good.
We just went to commercial break. There we go. Sorry, you cut off there a little bit, Danielle.
That's okay.
I know you've got a very busy day. Final question. What's your message to Jared Polis and Mike Johnston?
I have nothing to say to Mike Johnson at this point. To Jared Polis, I would like to speak to him. Politics aside, I don't know why you're calling the police on me. You called the police on me. I proved in the video footage that there was police officers in the video footage that was being released. So I don't know what calling the police is going to do when the police are already in the video. I would like to talk to the governor of the state of Colorado as one of his constituents, as another elected official in the third largest city in this state. I would like to have a meeting with the governor.
I think we're going to clip that and we're going to put it on social media, and I'm going to tag him, and we are going to try to push this. His absenteeism, his desire to hide from the consequences of being a sanctuary state is not helping his people. He needs to talk to Danielle Jurinsky. We need to figure out a plan, put the labels aside, put the partisanship aside. This has to do with the safety and well-being of the people of Colorado. Governor, you have to call Danielle Jurinsky, figure this out. Danielle, you have exemplified public service to your constituents. You have gone above and beyond what most politicians and elected officials would ever do. You've actually helped people get to safety. You've moved them out. You've covered this issue. You've exposed yourself to criticism at the national level from progressives just to try to help your people. I want to thank you for that. You're doing a great job, and thank you for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you guys so much. There's more emails coming out in about 5 minutes.
Ooh, what a tease. Thank you.
We'll have to go follow that on X. Do you want to give us a little insight?
Oh, I just let her go. Sorry, I thought we were done. Sorry, I thought we were done. That is my fault.
Oh, well, you have to go over to Danielle Jurinsky's X account, which is Danny Jurinsky, DANIJURINSKY. So go follow her over there. Oh, boy.
Yeah. That's a big one. I can't figure out the why not tell people this is going on. That's what I can't. And again, that's why I think that her critique and your critique may hold some water about the idea of it then disproving the sanctuary city efficacy, that we can't do this because this is what ends up happening. However, I would have said that if you're in the room at the time and you're looking at the messaging and you're saying we don't want to acknowledge this because it hurts the sanctuary city policy, I would say not acknowledging it hurts the policy more.
Yeah,
because it acquiesces and says this is okay.
You know what it reminds me of is when like a church is like, oh yeah, that youth pastor, and we just moved him to a different job. By the way, this Thursday we've got a special Thanksgiving,
and we wish him luck on all his future endeavors.
Right.
That's always the phrase.
It's like, no, you got a problem, address it.
Yeah, that is a problem.
And ignoring it because it's going to quote bring you shame.
Yeah, and the one thing that I think Daniela really was articulate about is pointing out, and you have been as well, the lack of leadership. That not saying anything about this and refusing to address it is not leadership. It is the complete vacuum of leadership, because that's what you need from your leader, is the idea that, hey, we are going to have some troubles with this, or this is going to be a problem, and this is how we are dealing with it. Not just the acknowledgement of the problem, but reassurance that there is a plan in place. And we've heard since this thing has started from the Aurora Police Department, no, we know about this and we are doing X, Y, and Z to combat it. But you didn't want to tell us. That's the one thing you didn't want to do. You didn't want to tell us. I can't figure that one out for life.
I can't either. And no. I mean, if I was an elected official with this amount of not just state, not just national, but international coverage.
Yeah.
And if I was in Mike Kaufman's position, I'd have a call with the police chief and I would say, I don't want to see this as a headline again. The headline needs to be City of Aurora does everything to protect its citizens from transnational gangs.
Here's the other thing. Think about this. Now, this is okay. Sometimes I am the king of bad analogies, and yet we're going to put another one on the table that is a bad analogy. This is imperfect, but I think can illustrate the issue. When we were going through COVID, they started to hold daily briefings, and the idea was to answer our questions and make you, I, and our listeners feel safe. Didn't accomplish that. However, that was the goal. And that's where I would be going with this. I'm not talking for a daily press conference. I'm not even looking for a weekly one. What I'm looking for is a weekly form of communication that would come out and say, we are dealing with this. And what I would do is I would come out and say, we had this many contact with the gang members, and this is the arrest. These are the actions that we took. These are the people that we've taken off the street. And because then it looks like you're taking action and you're involved. Even if it is just showing up, we had a disturbance at this apartment complex. facts, and this is what we are doing.
Like seriously, what? I know mayor's got lots of things to do.
Yeah.
Okay, and I understand there are probably some that are equal, if not more important, to the actual people of Aurora than addressing this issue. But come on,
I know.
Out of all the stuff that you're doing today, you can't go, we're going to do daily updates on this. We're going to absolutely make sure that these apartments are safe. Dude, you could be a progressive. You could be a total lib on open borders and still win this issue by saying, I'm going to protect the victims of gang violence who are here illegally and being exploited.
And the other part
is no reason why you couldn't do that.
You're exactly right. And you're protecting the victims of gang violence who are the immigrants that you want to defend in the first place. That is a wonderful example, my friend. That is perfect. That there's nothing preventing even a very, very progressive person from coming out and saying this, from coming out and saying, this is what we are dealing with.
Because it's the church youth pastor problem where you're like, it's so embarrassing. If we admit to it, we'll look terrible.
Look bad
and it's like, now you hit it. It's gotten even bigger as a result of it.
Yeah. Everybody forgets with Nixon, it's always about the cover up. And here's the weird part. We were talking about newspapers and how the media landscape is changing. If we want to jump into the old time machine and look at what newspapers used to do, and especially small town newspapers, there was a little section in that small town newspaper called Police Beat. And what they did is they would show the calls that the police went on that week. This is how they were involved in. They went and dealt with this and this and this. Was it everything? No. But it did talk to the community about the actions the police were taking. Why we don't have some sort of social media or something Police Beat coming from the mayor's office or from the department, that's the idea. That's what you need to do. And the reason they did Police Beat was to, one, highlight the silly things that people in the community are doing, but also to make you feel safer, to show the police are taking action on the concerns you have in the community. That's all you have to do. It's a solution that is more than 35 years old, but somehow nobody in Aurora can figure it out.
Well, I'm going to be refreshing Danielle Jurinsky's X account
over and over and over. Yes.
To wait to see what she posts, because apparently there's more coming out. Well, give us a call. Tell us what you think about all this. 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Why won't Jared Polis call Danielle Jurinsky? Dude, come on. Call her. What is, do you need her number? Gov, I can provide it for you, but I'm guessing you know how to get a hold of her. Call Danielle Jurinsky, Jared Polis. All right. I want to talk to you about my good friends over at Colorado's Best Roofing. If you're like me, you know that living in Colorado means dealing with unpredictable weather, hail, snow, heavy winds, you name it. We've got it. That's why you need a roofing company you can trust, and that's Colorado's Best Roofing. They're local, family-owned, and have served the Denver area for over 12 years. They understand our unique climate, know how to build a roof that lasts, but maybe you just need a little repair or a whole new roof. Colorado's Best Roofing has got you covered. And here's what I really love. They offer a free, no-obligation inspection. Right? So I lived in a house one time in Virginia that had a leaky roof, and they couldn't figure it out. It's a disaster. I hated it. You got to get it fixed. And Colorado's Best Roofing will come out to your place. They'll do a free, no obligation inspection. So they'll figure out the problem. Then you can work with them. They'll provide no pressure, no gimmicks, just straight talk from the pros. Plus, they work with your insurance company to make sure you get all the coverage you deserve. So don't wait until the next big storm hits. Give Colorado's Best Roofing a call today at 303-797-7663 or visit them at roofingcolorado.com. That's 303-797-7663, roofingcolorado.com. Trust the best. Colorado's Best Roofing. I love to hanging out with Steve, who runs Colorado's Best Roofing. This is a guy who came to faith later in life, real authentic conversion to following Jesus Christ, and his company is a reflection of his ministry. He wants to serve. This isn't about getting as many roofs as you could possibly can. This is about making sure that quality is done as a ministry to the people he cares about and to honor God. And he does a great job. So Check out Colorado's best roofing at roofingcolorado.com. We'll continue with your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
RockyMountainBargains.com, where you'll always pay half price. Why pay retail when you can get what you want at 50% off? Just go to RockyMountainBargains.com and save. Here's this week's featured item.
$100 gift cards from Sean D's Persian Grill in the Denver Tech Center. Get them now for half price.
Get it now at RockyMountainBargains.com for 50% off. RockyMountainBargains.com, where you always pay half price. Restrictions apply. Go to RockyMountainBargains.com for complete details.
At this hour, I'm Christina Owayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories.
Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody lawsuit against the Biden-Harris DOJ for blocking the state's investigation into the second assassination attempt of President Donald Trump that happened at his golf course in West Palm. Moody is asking the court to make the federal government stop blocking the state of Florida from investigating Ryan Ruth, the would-be assassin, while the feds are also looking into the incident. Governor Ron DeSantis ordered the
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's go to the phone lines. Barney, good morning.
Hey, morning.
Hey, Jeff. Hey, Jeff. I think Billy woke up on the wrong side of the bed today. The only reason I listen to you guys is he doesn't sound like me. He's got a good radio voice, and he clearly woke up on the wrong side of the bed because I agree with him. It might be the end of the world. I don't know.
That might be the end of the world, Barney. It might be. So I think, Barney, I think you and I need to go out today and buy lotto tickets. If we agree on something, man, something's wrong. We got it, man.
I agree.
Yeah, continue.
Now, Jeff's been giving you those gummies, those marijuana gummies. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
Maybe, my friend. Maybe, man.
I got to go. I was going to call about Tony, the spineless caller that called about General Milley being so credible, but I want to talk about Danny. This is more important. First off, Jeff, no, Kaufman gets all the responsibility for this. He's the one that's spineless. You finally get a woman that, and I've always said this about women. Some women have male genitalia, I guess. They're just really strong, and I appreciate her. I think she's awesome for doing what she's doing. Kaufman could condemn that bill and clean it out. I don't know what happened to the Aurora Police Department. That Heather Moore, if you couldn't have watched her news conference and tell she wasn't lying through her teeth, I don't know. It's a disgrace that this has happened. And keep in mind, most of those people are immigrants. I don't care what you want to do with immigrants, but you don't have a right to put them in a building and then let them be brutalized. You just don't. There's one way to take care of that.
Barney, I agree with you. And Billy, did you notice that Barney said that there are some women that can have male genitalia?
Yeah, I know. It's finally come over to my side.
Figuratively speaking. And by the way, Jeff, you could call it Mitt Romney and tell Mitt Romney the reason he sucked is because he couldn't bipartisan this, reach across the aisle this. We ended up with Trump because we had 8 years of W, and I voted for him twice, and I regret that. Voted for Romney too, and we had 8 years of Obama. Us conservatives said, you're not going to shove Jeb Bush down our throat. That's why we got Trump. Like it or not.
Yeah,
and you know what?
Interesting.
I guess I vote for Hitler. Trump is Hitler. Laura was on last night saying, hey, if you guys really believe that, you better do everything in your power to keep him out of that office. You guys just suck. But Billy, for once I can say I love you and it came from the heart, but I'm sure next week I'm going to hate you.
I am certain, my friend. Call me back next week and hate me as much as you want. I love you to death, man. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the time. Thanks for the call, and have a great weekend.
Oh, Barney is always fun.
Yeah, love me some Barney. That's fantastic.
He
That was great.
He does have actually a great voice for radio because it's so distinct.
And the thing for me is just the energy and the passion inside of it. I love his commitment and just the fun that he brings to the show. I think he's fantastic. I know that I annoy him more times than not, and I can't express to Barney how much I appreciate the fact that even though I tick him off, he continues to spend time with us. Thank you, man. Thank you very much.
And this is what we'd love to see next Tuesday. 1 week before the election, October 29th, we're going to be doing a live broadcast at the IHOP off of Mississippi and 225 here in Aurora. We got to do something with TDA.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So come enjoy the TDA breakfast.
Got to do something.
In Aurora.
It's the IHOP. It's Mississippi Avenue, just west of 225. We're there for the whole show. 6 to 10. Come see the funny things and the weird things that we do, and we'll chat with you between breaks when we can. We'll take pictures. If you come in for a cup of coffee, great. Want to spend the whole 4 hours with us? That is fantastic. I'm going to see if I can get Jeff into a blueberry syrup drinking contest.
Oh,
just
that
saying.
would be interesting.
Yeah, we're going to see if we can hit a diabetic coma by 7:30 in the morning.
All right, so who's engaging in election fraud in Mesa County? It's always Mesa County. What is happening over there?
Nice job.
At least a dozen Colorado ballots were stolen and fraudulently filled out. Are our elections the gold standard? We're going to learn more. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
It's 9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Friday, October 25th. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Billy Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations, you're waking up and working in the greatest country in history. Let's get after it. We've got a whole hour planned for you of engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now, coming up after news and comment with Blake Olson, headline out of the Denver Post. At least a dozen Colorado ballots were stolen and fraudulently filled out in Mesa County, according to a scheme that officials say may be coming together. We're going to dive into all of this and more. And then this line hit me. Election officials cannot retrieve the 3 fraudulent ballots, and they will be counted. Are we really the gold standard, or is this all starting to fall apart? We'll get into that and more. But first, news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 40 and cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 66 today. The 710 forecast, 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
I asked the governor to call me at the last council meeting. I pled with him during closing reports. I asked him to put politics aside and to call me, that I would like to discuss this with him and show video footage to him. To try and once and for all get the truth out. And he turned around Tuesday morning and he called the police on me.
Wow. Aurora City Council member at large Danielle Jurinsky, who brought the illegal immigration gang story in Aurora to light, and really the reason DJT came to Colorado on last hour with Jeff and Billy. And how are things in Aurora today?
It is like they don't want anybody's help. They don't care. I don't know if some of them just don't want to work. I'm not sure really where we're at. I was hopeful in bringing in a new police chief, a permanent police chief, that there would be a shakeup once and for all, and he would be able to see through this. But understand, this cover-up, you look at the dates of these emails, this goes back to when we had interim police chief Art Acevedo, and then that followed along to interim police chief Heather Morris. Now here we are to a permanent police chief, Todd Chamberlain, who I thought was going to shake the trees, but he's keeping himself surrounded by the exact same people that have upheld the exact same narrative.
And she's sending out even more information this morning. Stay tuned in the days to come. Election Day is just 11 days away. Kamala Khan and DJT will both be in Texas today. Trump speaks this afternoon in the Hill Country in Austin, while the Khan will hold a campaign event in Houston with Beyonce. Around 8 million borrowers could be offered student loan debt relief under new rules from the Biden administration. No way. Really? New rules were announced today. So weird. 11 days from Election Day. While the lefties are smearing Trump, VP candidate J.D. Vance telling the truth.
We were hosting an event for him near our home in Cincinnati a few months ago. And of course, my wife was a little bit nervous to really, talk to the president of the United States. And he asked her, what do you think about your husband being in public service? And she gives, if you know my wife, a very diplomatic answer. Sir, he really cares about the people of Ohio. He's thrilled to be able to serve them, and I'm happy to support him however I can. And President Trump chuckles and goes, yeah, my wife hates it too. and the thing that it did is it just immediately broke the barrier. And it wasn't the former president. It was just a person talking to my wife. And I think you guys were able to have a nice conversation. But that ability to relate to anybody in any environment, I think that's the true brilliance of Donald J. Trump.
Broncos wide receiver Josh Reynolds was a victim of a shooting last Friday in Denver and received treatment for minor injuries. The circumstances are still unclear and under investigation. 42-year-old Burge Charlesworth was arrested on the 19th, and 35-year-old Luis Mendoza arrested on the 22nd. Both are being held for investigation of attempted first-degree murder and first-degree assault.
We've got a very big problem because the federal government has become an increasingly poor landlord. And I've given presentations on this around the country, and people are so used to the idea that the federal government owns the land that it's kind of a hard thing to wrap your mind around it being any other way.
Jennifer Fielder, CEO American Lands Council, on with the fellas this morning, and the West wants a little change. Utah is taking the lead, and the federal government owns and controls about half of all the land in the West. Is it constitutional, though, for the federal government to retain all of this land without the consent of the state? They're hoping the court will take the case.
But the people in the states have become exasperated by efforts to work with and cooperate with and coordinate with the federal government for proper land management, that finally we're seeing a number of states and local governments and other organizations step up and just call out the wrongness of the federal government being able to control all of this land inside of our states, yet they don't control all of that land inside other states. Utah is focusing on what's termed unappropriated federal lands. So
unappropriated federal lands does not include national parks, wilderness areas, and national monuments. Good luck to them. First pitch, World Series tonight, Dodgers and Yankees, game one.
What time is it?
Yeah, it's the weekend. College football weekend. Tomorrow night, Cincinnati at CU, New Mexico at CSU. Air Force is off. Utah State at Wyoming, and Northern Colorado plays host to number 9, Montana in Greeley at Nottingham. Come on up.
I'm guessing big upset. I'm feeling
All right,
it.
I like it. I like it, Jeff. That's
Sit
what I'm
down,
talking
Montana.
about.
UNC got the screaming Warriors.
That's right. It's the Grizz and the Bears tomorrow. All right, since you mentioned it, the Screaming Warriors, the Screaming Bears. Can't
in
get
my
enough
veins. Put it in my veins, Blake.
You need to come up to the game before the CU game.
Oh,
CU
that'd be
game
fun.
starts at like 8 o'clock. Just have a double header.
There you go.
There you go. 37 in Centennial, 35 in Boulder, and 40 in Denver. And Jeff and Bill continue.
Kamala's a clown. Kamala's a clown. So get out and vote. Keep jump around. Jump around. Keep jump around. Jump around. Jumps up, Kamala's going down. I'm the cream of the crop.
TGIF. Have a great weekend. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
I think you need some loving because you
It'll
sounded
be
like
a
that.
gorgeous late October weekend here in Denver. Take advantage. Temperatures are going to be climbing into the mid-60s today. Lows tonight, upper 30s and low 40s, into the 70s. Saturday, Sunday, Monday. However, do be ready for a chance of showers and temperatures that will be noticeably colder by Tuesday and Wednesday. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
So I don't know what to make of this story. Bill, I don't know if this is a developing bigger issue.
Yeah.
Or is this just like some rando?
Yeah.
This is a Denver Post headline. At least a dozen Colorado ballots were stolen, fraudulently filled out in Mesa County, scheme officials say. At least a dozen mail-in ballots were stolen, fraudulently filled out, and submitted in Mesa County for the November 5th election in a scheme that they're investigating right now. Authorities detected the scheme before most of the ballots were processed, she said. Jenna Griswold said, but 3 were successfully cast after clearing a signature review process. So these were submitted, and the little electronic thing said, yeah, it's clean, but it wasn't right. A 4th ballot nearly made it through, Griswold said, but it was flagged after the legitimate voter received a notification that their ballot had been cast. Election officials cannot retrieve the 3 fraudulent ballots, and they will be counted.
Yeah. The thing I'm looking at is I think when they say signature review, I'm wondering if that is the hand examination afterwards, because I'm assuming since you're using the word review, and the reason I bring that up is because that gives me much more concern on our signature verification process, because again, I don't know exactly, but I'm taking that statement to mean that the machine kicked it out and the humans looked at it and gave it a pass. And for me, that's a huge issue. And again, I want to point back to the idea that everybody goes, oh, these machines don't work with signature verification. When they're talking about signature review process, that normally, colloquially, what we've been talking about in the state is the human review process afterwards. That would be a human mistake, not the machine mistake. And it sucks that they can't go back and find those 3 again. It's 3. I'm not that concerned about it being 3 at this point. And they can't, because once you take the ballot out of the envelope, there's no way to cross-check the 2 of them, because you don't ever want to make sure that our private secret ballots aren't private and secret. And that's the only way you'd be able to do the justification and verify that, would be to have a serial number on the ballot that is cast and a serial number on the envelope that would match. It's the only way.
Here's what they say. Mesa County uses an electronic signature verification process, comparing it to the signatures on file. The election judge also manually checked the signatures on the back of the envelope at times. The signature verification system helped identify the scale of the issue in Mesa County. 2 voters also reached out to election officials after they received notifications to cure ballots, meaning to fix concerns with their signatures that they haven't ever received.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get that. I got that email too when we cast our ballot.
Which would mean the process, functionally worked, because their ballot was flagged as being incorrect based on the signature verification. So in theory, the process would work there, not 100%, but in theory.
In the case of the 3 ballots accepted for counting, all had been kicked out for further review by the automatic signature verification system. They were then accepted by the same election judge.
Yeah, so there's where we have the issue. And so I want to put a pin on this one.
And the judge has been reassigned.
Yeah, and I think this is incredibly important. And I want our listeners to go out there and listen to the conversations that are having about this. Because what we know, based on the facts that have been outlined by Jeff right now, the machines did their job. The human was the error. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. The machine did its job. The human was the error. So before we start talking about, obviously, voter machines are manipulated and all the steal and stuff that we heard from Mesa County and Tina Peters, it wasn't the machine. There isn't a single thing in Tina Peters' report that was proven true here. Not a single thing that was proven in any of Tina's reports that is proven by this action that happened in Mesa County. What it does prove is the signature verification process at least seems to work enough of the time, and then failed on 3 occasions based on human error. Human error. It's important.
What do you think is going on here? There's not a lot of evidence. They're doing investigations. And in fact, Bobby Gross, who is the Mesa County clerk and recorder, said Griswold shouldn't have revealed the scheme publicly. She said that it was critical that we follow proper procedures to ensure a thorough and effective investigations without tipping off.
Oh, that's the issue.
Those involved.
Yeah, that's the issue. Tipping off the people that that they did the crime. Yeah, that's the issue. You've got to figure out and go back to where were the ballots cast, etc. And again, this is an argument that you have made numerous times. And what I would talk about is things like security cameras in and around ballot drop boxes.
Yeah.
Because if the cameras were doing their job, you might be able to figure out.
Figure out who
you
it
might
is.
be able to which ballot drop box they went to and then trace it back from there.
So I think it's one of 2 things.
Yeah.
Maybe 3. It could be a one-off person that feels very compelled about a particular candidate, that they went out there and took a number of the ballots that they could find, right? They just raided mailboxes.
Yeah. Like an apartment complex or something else.
Yeah. And then did their best and they got popped. So it could be a one-off thing.
Yep, sure could.
It could be a family member issue. So let's say someone couldn't fill out the ballot. They filled it out for them or something, or signed it.
Here's another example that we've had in our recent past here in Colorado, when a former Colorado party chair of a party that's going to remain nameless filled out the ballot for his wife, because his ex-wife, they had divorced and she had moved and the ballot wasn't forwarded. So when it arrived to his house, he filled it out and signed his signature. So we don't. It could be something
So
like that as well.
it could
but again,
be that.
that number seems weird.
And
for
we
a dozen,
don't
but
know.
yeah, we
And
don't
again,
know.
I'm going to reaffirm we
Yeah.
don't really know. But here's where I think it could get interesting.
Yeah, tell me.
You could have somebody risking the
Mhm.
actual violation of law to prove a point. And what they may have done is not this on 3, 4, 5, but you may see hundreds, 200, 300, and it may come out after the election. And they'll come out anonymously and they'll say, look, I proved that you can game the system. They might be motivated to try to prove a weakness. And who knows? So I don't know.
Yeah.
But when I look at this, there's not enough information there because I know there's an effort, there's a belief that mail-in ballots could be gamed, and they want to show that they could.
Yeah. See, now
I don't know.
Here's the thing: is I'm real close to you on that one. That if I had to put, what is most likely, that's where my heart goes. I'm not saying the head. I'm not sure that's the most intellectually, choice, but my heart goes that way. That it feels like someone trying to prove a point. However, I would diverge from you on the idea that they went out and got hundreds. I think this is what they got, and they were trying to prove a point with these 12. And maybe it's even twice that at 24.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have a hard time figuring out that someone would be able to fake 100 signatures and make it through the machine. So I think it's much more likely that it's a small sample, because even then, the small sample would prove the point. Whether or not it's 100 or 2 or 5 or 12, it would prove the point they would be seeking to prove. And if it turns out to be that person trying to prove the point that the mail-in ballots are insecure, they have proven the opposite point. They've actually proved that the system did work and prevented them from doing X, Y, and Z and taking over the election. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to see how this all plays out. Developing news, but keep an eye on all this. I've never been a fan of the carpet bombing the entire state with ballots. I don't think that's nearly as secure as voting in person. But that is the game that the Democrats have set up in this state. We've got to play it as Republicans better than them. We've got to legally ballot harvest better than them. If you want to end ballot harvesting, by the way, make every church a ballot harvesting operation. Then you'll see.
Good point.
Then you'll see the Democrats go, well, actually, we rethought this. I'm not quite
Good
sure.
point. Yeah, just like they've rethought a couple of things. Yeah, like maybe we don't like this as much as we thought we did as far as school choice, as we were talking about earlier today. Good point.
Let's go to Greg Littleton. Good morning, Greg. You're on the
Morning.
Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. I was a signature verification judge last election, and it was an interesting experience. And most of the ones that came, all the ones that came to the people had already been rejected by the machine, and the scanner scans every envelope that comes in, and they use some software from a company called Periscript up in Longmont or Loveland, someplace like that. And I can't explain the technology behind it, but there's about 150,000 went straight through. That is, the machine verified them as good, and then the rest came to people to verify. And working through that process, I have to admit I'm an election denier. I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I'm convinced that after the ballots are picked up at these ballot boxes, there's nothing improper happens after that. I mean, the process was really good, and a lot of the signatures I saw, a human being can, in like 2 seconds, verify that it's the same person. It's so similar, the style and everything, and very few of them actually got sent on beyond that. But my issue is with before they get out picked up at the box, there's no chain of custody. And I saw a video produced by Jefferson County, or maybe it was the state of Colorado, and also heard the same comment on a talk show one Saturday morning by the head of the county clerks organization or association here in Colorado, talking about how after the ballots are picked up at these boxes, they establish a chain of custody. Are you still there?
Yeah, we're listening to you.
Yeah, I'm curious to where you're going.
I didn't hear anything about it. And but for someone to claim that at this point we had now established a chain of custody, that statement is so disingenuous and dishonest.
And I don't see the chain of custody argument coming from them, but I do. It seems like all of it is backstopped on this idea of signature verification, right? Like, oh yeah, we carpet bomb the entire state with ballots. We don't really track if people are ballot harvesting or not, even though the law says no more than 10 can be turned in by a person. But we have this great backstop. So don't worry about all that because we have signature verification. So my question to you, Greg, you worked in this, and that's just why I'm really interested. Do you believe that it's adequate enough to prevent fraud, the signature verification analysis?
No. I mean, I'm very confident that all the signatures that I looked at, they were proper. They looked enough like the original person's. But the government has all these signatures on file. If someone could get those files, they could print out a signature on any kind of printer around there.
But Greg, could they though print it out because they can't print it out on the ballot? I mean, so you're talking about a huge organization.
Yeah, the signatures on the envelope.
I know, but that's what I'm saying is you can't print that on the envelope because you're talking about printing out all these signatures. So you'd still have to have some sort of a penmanship expert or something like that. And I find it interesting that you said, well, all the ones that I saw were valid, but yet you're willing to say that everybody else somehow is fraudulent. But your personal experience was that it was solid.
Over the ones that I viewed, yes, you're right.
Yeah, but you still come to the conclusion of fraud, though. Despite the fact that you have real world experience not seeing fraud, you still come to the conclusion of fraud. I find that interesting.
Well, because when they used to pick them up from the box, we established a chain of custody. Well, there's no chain of custody before that, and the statement was so disingenuous it made me really suspect something's going on. But your question a minute ago, is it signature verification as good as voter ID? And it's no.
What makes you say that?
A person standing there.
Let's explore that for a second. Let's explore that just for a second here, Greg. How is voting in person more secure? Because I could fake an ID and I can fake a signature. There's no reason if we're doing signature verification, there's no signature verification when I walk into that in-person voting. They have me sign on a piece of paper that I'm going to go ahead and vote, and then I go and I vote, but they don't cross-reference that at any point.
I'm assuming that the government honors government identifications. I mean, if someone can break that, they've broken authentication. They can do anything.
Yeah, I know, but guess what? Teenagers have been manufacturing fake IDs for decades. The idea that a government-issued ID or something that looks like a government-issued ID is the gold standards of how we verify people. I know a whole bunch of teenagers that completely and totally disagree with you.
Well, go try through the TSA or at a past border crossing point, someplace like that. The government has a way, don't ask me how they do it, but of verifying that this is a genuine passport and it wasn't printed in some, high school computer science course.
I understand that. And I hate to interrupt again. I understand that. But remember, we have volunteers that are manning these polling places, not government employees, not with technology. We normally have retired individuals with a paper list. That's a totally different system than what you're looking for as far as verifying things at the border or coming in through one of our major airports. It's a different system you're looking for. I don't think it's not comparable. And that's why I push back on the in-person voting is because it's a list of paper that you sign on. It's not necessarily more secure.
I haven't heard the answer. I really would love to, Greg. And maybe you just don't have insight, but why is it that you believe, or what's your experience that makes you believe that the signature verification software isn't adequate in Colorado? Have you seen anything or
Well, no, I
anything?
trust. In fact, I checked this out through a friend who knows the key signature guy at the FBI, and they said, well, this software is top notch, the stuff from Periscope. So I said, well, okay, I got to believe that that's good because these are experts that said that software is really good. But it's, like I said, they have signatures on file. In fact, I checked my own when I was there doing all this. And they have, every time I've signed up for a new driver's license or renewal or did tax or had to pay a fine or whatever, they have my signature. I had like 10 or 15 of mine. And I just went back and looked at, that's me.
So how do you think, though, that gets forged? Do you think that the Democrats are somehow giving somebody access to those so they can forge them?
Go along with my conspiracy theory mentality. I think if it is going on, it's also very possible there's not a Democrat anywhere that knows what's going on. All they have to do is let these ballots go loose, and somebody picks them up, and then they doctor them or whatever, they turn them in. But my point is there is no chain of custody at all.
Yeah,
They're sent out just U.S. mail.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Look, I have big concerns about the entire thing. I just wish we could vote in person like we used to on a single day. I think we could get the information better. I think it'd be more transparent. You wouldn't have all these problems. But the state has built this system where the entire backstop rests on this idea that the signature verification is right. I haven't heard anything that says otherwise. I haven't seen any proof otherwise.
I have to trust that the technology is good, but it just means that the signature arrived there. It doesn't mean that person signed it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Greg. All right, really appreciate the call.
Yeah.
Coming up next, Jeff Hildebrandt's going to join us for some cowboy poetry to help you right off into the sunset this week after a
nicely
wild
done.
week. But I want to talk to you first about my friend Dan Kaplis and Dan Kaplis Law. Dan suggests you should choose a lawyer who shares your values because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Kaplis is the son of a police officer. He's a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. But more than just being a great guy, Dan is a real winner. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. That's huge. Dan Kaplis Law is so trusted that they're the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Kaplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases, and you're probably thinking, well, I can't afford this guy. Not true. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call. 303-770-5551. Even if you're not hurt, just put this in your phone number or your phone right now. So you have it. 303-770-5551 or hit dankaplislaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
It is in the 9:30 hour on the Jeff and Bill Show on a Friday, which means we get to take a little point of personal privilege and bring in one of our good friends, Jeff Hildebrand, to provide us with some cowboy poetry, which I love. And no, I'm not a cowboy. I'm kind of, I have no cows, but I do like the idea of being a cowboy. So I'm literally the walking definition of all hat and no cattle.
There it is. You betcha. You betcha.
I'm honest, at least, right?
So I understand my headsets are broken. I can't hear anything. So I'm going to take them off, and I'll just keep talking because nobody can stop me.
There you go. No one's going to interrupt you now.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so I heard with great enthusiasm that you and your partner in crime are going to be going to a certain pancake restaurant in Mesa, Colorado.
Not Mesa.
No.
But off of Mississippi. So close. Same letter, but no. Well, the IHOP next Tuesday from 6 to 10, we'll do a live broadcast at the IHOP right over here off of Mississippi and 225.
So you're not going to be counting ballots up there after all.
No, we will not be helping the election judges.
Okay. Sorry,
they need some
Tina.
help, though.
Sorry. Thought you.
Sorry, Tina.
Anyway,
poor Tina.
So in honor of that, I wanted you to know that I do stop at IHOP. And I wrote this. Oh, pancake, you steaming stack of syrupy circles, dripping delicious delight with every bite. If breakfast were baseball, I'd cry, batter up, and watch them sizzle, then slowly drizzle their fluid fruit or magic maple, till like a waterfall it cascades from peak to plate. Oh, you griddle cake whose pats of butter go to melt, and I'm forced to undo my belt. It seems so long it's hard to wait. Is that my waitress with my plate? It is. Oh, no. This just is awful. She's bringing me a Belgian waffle, piled high with berries and whipped cream. My wife's all smiles. I want to scream. The waffle is her breakfast treat, but where is what I want to eat? My pancake. Oh, at last I see them, piping hot. This is gonna hit the spot. I just can't wait. My heart's aflutter. The waitress says, here's extra butter. I gazed upon that glorious plate. I tell you, it was worth the wait for pancakes.
Oh,
that's wonderful.
IHOP, right? The royalty checks now, baby. Holy cow.
fantastic.
I do the entire time. I have this like image of IHOP running a commercial with like the syrup pouring down and the butter pouring down, and then Jeff Hildebrand's sultry tones over the top of that.
You just get your video and put it together like you did that one the other week or so ago with the outside videos.
Be happy
and
to
everything.
do that, Jeff.
Put that on your Tuesday
that's so
morning show. Anyway,
well, what else do you got for us?
well, let's see. How much time do we have? Are we
sometime?
Got a few minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me I'll put that one in the back of the pile. Since we're still talking politics, we're still seeking some clarity. The candidates make promises while running for election. They say they'll fix what scares us in hopes that makes connection. Meanwhile, dancing around reality in a choreographed routine, they do the sidestep shuffle for the nightly TV screen. They're spending tens of millions to enhance their mass appeal, while major network media says, great, let's make a deal. I think that every one of you should put claims to the test. Pray God's Spirit guides you, because we know He knows best.
Needs to be a lot of prayer between now and November 5th, doesn't
You
it?
betcha. You
Yep.
betcha.
And you've done
Yeah.
some poetry on that before.
I have. Yeah.
Before you get to the next one, I do want to talk to you about a great event coming up from Colorado Christian University on Friday, November 15th. I think this is just 10 days after the election. The 48th Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, and his wife, former Second Lady, Karen Pence, will be putting on a great event over at CCU in partnership with the Centennial Institute and CCU President Eric Hogue. This event offers a unique opportunity to engage in conversation with Vice President Pence, one of America's most dedicated public servants, sharing his insights on the future of the conservative movement. Be among the first to experience the new Armstrong Center as CCU launches its President's Speaker Series on this historic occasion. Go to ccu.edu/Pence to get tickets and learn more. Limited tickets are available for breakfast with Karen Pence, lunch with Mike Pence, and morning and evening lectures. Throughout the day, you'll engage in conversations on leadership, faith, and service with these distinguished guests. Please join CCU on November 15th for these events with Mike and Karen Pence. Go to ccu.edu/Pence to get tickets and learn more. That's ccu.edu/Pence. All right, Jeff Hildebrand, what do you have for us next?
Well, I think this will relate to every guy in the audience, and every wife in the audience will smile and give them a nudge. So he stood there in the forest, surrounded by the trees, alone with just his future plans and all his memories. He stood there in the forest, not lost, but all alone. He picked this place on purpose. No calls came on his phone. Nobody interrupted. Nobody criticized. Nobody told him what to do. But then he realized there is one truth he can't escape. He learned it from his mom. Even if no woman hears it, what he says is probably wrong.
Oh, I like that.
That's a good nudge. A good nudge from the spouse there on that one. That's great. What's next?
Anyway, poets write in various forms, and you get tired writing in one style all the time. And so I have explored many other styles of poetry, and I found something that your listeners may be aware of. It's called Japanese haiku.
Yes.
Now, haiku is a non-rhyming 3-line poem with specific numbers of syllables in the first line, second line, and third line. It was kind of fascinating to me, and so I adapted it into the cowboy genre. And I call it yippee-yi haiku.
Say that again. I interrupted you.
Yippee-yi haiku.
That's awesome.
And this is haiku old water. Keep a looking, Dan. There is water in this land, and you need a bath. Now,
Oh, that's great.
Okay, I'll give you another one. Haiku poo. Number 2. He was not aware cows once stood where he now walks, and the chips are down.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That is great.
Okay.
This is
Well,
why at the
that's
Hunt
enough
House you
haiku.
absolutely have to take off your shoes before you come
That's
in the house, because we live on a ranch and
Exactly.
it's everywhere. Believe me.
Exactly.
That's great.
Okay. Well, again, see, I can't hear, so I don't know how much time we have left.
Oh, the show ended 10 minutes ago,
Oh,
but just
okay.
keep going,
Good.
please.
Good. Next week, before our Friday get together, there's a big event on Thursday. Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And so this may, for some of you, be a little early, but it's certainly something to think of as you go to church on Sunday. It's Halloween, and down the street, young voices shout their trick or treat. You stand there watching at the door. As one group leaves, here comes some more. With scary masks, and painted faces. They open up their pillowcases, and as you drop some candy in, they thank you, then they're off again. It's Halloween each Sunday morn for those who have not been reborn. With pious masks and painted smiles, they wander up and down the aisles of churches where they take a seat and hope to get some holy treat to fill a hollow space inside, an emptiness they try to hide. If this sounds like someone you know, now's the time to tell them so. Tell them, don't believe the lies. It's trick or treat, and you're the prize. The signs are clear, the time is right. Decide to walk in Jesus' light. Don't put it off, for if you do, you'll find the trick has been on you.
Oh, wow.
That is a great
That's deep.
message.
That's nice. That's
wow.
really cool.
Well,
that is amazing.
Jeff Hildebrand, poet laureate here at 710 KNUS, official poet laureate and cowboy poet as well. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We're in a tough time.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's combative. I mean, this is what American democracy looks like 11 days before an election.
Right.
Right. It's
definitely.
peak. We're at 11 and people are pushing and the desperation reaches new levels. And to take 20 minutes, talk about Jesus, settle it down a little bit. That starts our Friday off well.
Well, I certainly hope it. I certainly hope it does. I hope people take it to heart and are not afraid to share, not afraid to talk about something that's important other than talking about elections.
Amen. You help us with that, Jeffrey.
My pleasure.
I appreciate it, Cowboy. All right, we'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
RockyMountainBargains.com, where you'll always pay half price. Why pay retail when you can get what you want at 50% off? Just go to RockyMountainBargains.com and save. Here's this week's featured item.
$100 gift cards from Sean D's Persian Grill in the Denver Tech Center. Get them now for half price.
Get it now at RockyMountainBargains.com for 50% off. RockyMountainBargains.com, where you always pay half price. Restrictions apply. Go to RockyMountainBargains.com for complete details.
back to the Jeff and Bill Show as we wrap up an incredible week. My goodness, if you missed any of the show, believe me, you'll want to go to 710knus.com to download the podcast because Danielle Jarinsky went after Polis in a way that, whoa, that's going to be on the news later today. Absolutely, it'll be on the news later today. So go back. That was during the 8 o'clock hour. We had Jennifer Fielder and Christy Burton Brown during the 7 o'clock hour. We talked the Mesa County issues. We talked the leftists going crazy, thinking Trump is second coming to Hitler or whatever it is, in their desperation to try to keep Donald Trump from winning. So a whole lot that was covered all at 710knus.com. By the way, it's going to be a little bit cooler today, 67 degrees, but don't worry, the longest fall that's ever taken place will continue Saturday and Sunday. Warmer, 77 on Saturday, 80 degrees on Sunday, 82 on Monday. Then finally, the showers and cooler weather come in on Tuesday and Wednesday next week.
Got a question real quick for you, my friend.
Yep.
Around the Hunt Ranch, I was gonna use a different word than that. I shouldn't have. I can't say that out loud. Not on the radio. How much ranking and stuff you have to do? Because I know a lot of people.
No ranking. We're out in the Eastern Plains, man. They're a little, but here's the deal.
Yeah.
My parents have tons of trees around. They bag up all the leaves, Billy, and bring them to us, and they are like chips for our goats.
Yeah.
They love them. So if you want to bring any leaves, if you don't put them out on the curb, we'll take them.
I have bags.
Do ya?
Oh, the thing is, we help out some people in the neighborhood, and there's one tree of maple that's across the street that I must have to rake over the course of fall, rake that yard 4 times minimum, and it is 3 to 4 large trash cans full every time. Here's my favorite part, though. There may be someone in the neighborhood that doesn't like having the leaves on their lawn, so almost on a daily basis, they come out and they rake the leaves on the other person's lawn.
No.
Yes.
They're that petty?
Daily. That's the part that gets me. I'm like, dude, you have
maybe we
time
should just bring the goats over to your place.
That's a great
idea. We got about a dozen goats on our little
that'd be
ranch, and
so
they
much
love
fun.
the chips. So
I would love to be the guy in the neighborhood that'd be the goat guy. I'd absolutely wear that.
Roll
one.
on up with the trailer and let all the goats out.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Hey, it's been an absolutely wonderful show. Charlie Kirk's up next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.